And we are officially recording. Very good. All right, so welcome everybody to the Broker Owner Summit that the Locker Room is hosting for you today. We've got a pretty awesome lineup, if I may say so myself. I'm probably the weakest link here in the room, and that's not a bad thing, because what do they tell us, right? When you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So I am proud to say I'm in the right room today. And with that being said, guys, those of you that don't know me, my name is Jake. I'm the founder of The Locker Room, and it is an honor and a privilege to spend a few hours with y'all today. We're going to kick this off the right way here in a second with Mr. Malmberg, and I'll let Kit introduce him. But first and foremost, guys, if you don't know The Locker Room or just getting to know us, check us out. I'm not here to sell you on anything. That's not the point of today. But hey, a little humble brag. Go to tlrnation.com, tlrnation.com. If you go to the free stuff tab, you can download some free goodies no matter what, because we just want to give back and add value to your lives as well as your associates. So there's that. And the Locker Room, as far as that goes, you're going to hear more about this a little bit later probably, but we've represented over 160 brokerages. We're brokerage colorblind, so to speak. We're not here to wave a flag of any one certain brokerage, but we have represented a whole bunch across the United States, and we're very proud of that, serving well over 6,000 agents. And the biggest differentiating factor, you guys, is this. Our passion is serving what we refer to as the blue ocean, the agents that represent the blue ocean in NAR. That's the 97%. How much? 97%. That currently sells 24 or fewer homes per year. Interesting, right? And when you take a look at all the real estate coaching organizations out there, there's some tremendous ones. So in no way, shape, or form am I belittling them, but let's be honest with each other. By and large, they're built for the already successful 3% agents, whether it's based on price or experience and things of that nature. So we've made it our mission to service the 97% of those agents who want to go to the next level, especially when you couple that with the fact that 8 or heck, even 9 out of 10 agents are out of there within their first 2 years of the business. So we are determined to move that needle in the opposite direction by helping you all as the broker owners, the people in the front line servicing these agents on a daily basis, through really beefing up what we've identified as the 4 biggest pain points. And that's what we're going to talk about today, which is growth, retention, productivity, and profitability. If you are a broker owner on here today or a leader in any capacity, I think we can all agree that if we have any problems or challenges that we're facing, it's going to boil down to one of those 4 typically. All right. So we're going to hopefully give you some relevant content today. I'm going to shut up because I'll spend an hour with you here in a minute. But Kit, why don't you take it over? I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that way Eric can get his queued up. And while doing so, if you would do us the honor to introduce Eric today, that would be amazing.
Absolutely. I'm honored to do so. So just a little bit of background. Eric and I have known each other for over 20 years. So I just absolutely love the guy, Eric. So I'm so glad that you're here to share with us. And Eric has been born and raised in Minnesota. He graduated with a degree in 1988 in psychology. And I'm sure that's come to be a great service in the brokerage world. And he started his the RE/MAX Advantage Plus here in the Lakeville area, which was at the time a very small town, in 2002. He started with 18 associates, and over the number of years between now into 2020, he has 19 office locations and just about 500 associates. 500 associates, 19 locations. And he's been all throughout the metropolitan Twin Cities area. And he has just experienced incredible success, both personally with the company and professionally within the RE/MAX organization. And he's been recognized over and over as an outstanding broker. And knowing him for as long as I've known him, his leadership style, I can truly say, is one of servant leadership. I coach a number of agents in Eric's organization, and the one thing that rings true all the time in the people I talk to is that he cares about his people and he serves with his heart. And so with that, I'm going to allow him to take over and share his journey on how he's been able to grow this incredible organization. So Eric, you're on.
Well, thank you very much, Kit. You are far too kind. Jake, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come and chat a little bit with your folks today. Just a kind of an aside, Jake. What Kit didn't tell everybody is I was a solid C+ student there at Gustavus in pursuit of my psychology degree. So I very rarely have to worry about being the smartest guy in the room. I try to use that to my advantage as much as possible. So, with that, I would say, just a quick shout out. Kit and I have known each other for a long, long time, and we've gone through several different kind of iterations in our existence, in our relationship. And she introduced me to the locker room, almost 2 years ago. And I think you guys were just in your infancy in terms of forming what you were going to do and where you were going to go. And I just have to say, I'm just really impressed with the trajectory that you guys are on, the training that you have, the tools that you're developing. And by the way, guys, this is unsolicited. I don't get paid to sponsor the locker room. I just am becoming more and more a fan as we go. So it's my pleasure, Jake. I mean, I wouldn't be saying that unless I truly meant it. So I'm going to start out by saying, again, my name is Eric Mullenberg. I have been a broker. I've been licensed since 1998. I've been a broker since 2002 with a national brand. I started with 14 associates in 2002. We have 500 now. Before that, I had worked for small companies like Lipton Tea and Soup, and I'd been with IBM and with Honeywell. And so I always been in a sales mode of some sort. And in 1998, I met and married the wrong woman, and found out how easily you can destroy your perfect existence by finding and hanging out with the wrong people, right? And so that didn't last long. Came back to Minnesota in 2002, started this Remax brokerage, and have been in that mode ever since. Just a couple of things. Now, I'm not going to come to you today and tell you that I have all the answers in regards to how to build the team and how to recruit and grow. What I am going to tell you is, and what I'm going to share with you, are some of the things that I've used, some of the things that have worked for me, and as in our success and as we have grown in terms of business development, recruiting specifically, the types of teams that are out there, types of teams members that you may want to attract. So, with that, I'm going to try here to share my screen with you, and see if I can figure out now. Jake, how do I go to the next foil?
Yep, if you just use your arrow, or I think you can also click, it should advance the slides.
There we go. So there's my resume that we've kind of already gone over. I do own a real estate company. I own a title company. I own actually a couple of different real estate companies that are meant to do different things, leasing, commercial. I have a side company that just essentially kind of holds licenses. And I am a father. I have 3 children. Probably the most important role that I have is father. And I do enjoy coaching and doing things outside of the work. So I suppose I can't go back to that. Let me tell you what that says on awards and accolades. We have been recognized by our brand as the #1 regional outfit in for 3 years during my 20 years as a broker. We've also been recognized twice as an International Broker of the Year by our brand. So we are the 4th largest Remax brokerage in the world. So we have some experience in growing and running brokers. I think we're the number 80. We're in the 80s in terms of power brokers from Real Trends. So that's kind of our resume. That's the perspective that I'm coming to you from. So let's take a look at my presentation. Kind of looks at definitions of teams. I'm going to take a look at, how do you identify the type of team that you want to be, and then we're going to talk about how you go out and find and recruit team members, how you grow your team. So with that, Webster gives you the definition of a team as a number of persons associated that work together in some sort of activity, right? A crew or a gang, a football team or a debate team, something like that. I'm not really that interested in that type of a definition. I'm much more interested in the definition of a high performance team because of the adjectives used in regards to what that actually is. A group of people with specific roles and complementary talents and skills aligned and committed to a common purpose, right? I think that high performance teams have much more specific ideals and goals. And so my idea right from the get-go was always to work and build not just a team, but rather a high performance team. So the characteristics of a high performing team, a culture. We're going to talk a lot about culture today, knowing what your culture is, building a culture that is attractive to the team members that you want to attract, those sorts of things. High performing teams have strong leaders, they have strong leadership. We follow at my organization, we follow the military, actually the Marine Corps role or model of leadership, where everyone is a leader and everyone should be developing their leadership skills and characteristics. So it's a little bit different than most teams that are out there. In high performing teams, everybody has a sense of purpose. There's open communication, mutual respect and trust, effective working procedures, building differences, flexibility and adaptability, continuous learning, which I think is critical to any organization, and celebration of success, which I think is probably the single most underutilized aspect of high performing teams. So take a look at why people, what we have found, the reasons why people come and join a team. I said we were going to talk a lot about culture. We're going to do that. Building affinity, having affinity and a connection to the culture that a team or a brokerage has. And I break that down in two ways. First, a logical connection, that connection that says, hey, this makes sense for me on a logical level, right? I'm not starting, if I'm a newer agent, I probably am looking for more training. I'm looking for more development opportunities. I'm looking for more opportunities to interact with other team members. So there's logical reasons for me to join a team or a brokerage. And then there's the emotional aspect of it, which is, do I feel connected with the team members? Do I feel connected with the brokerage? Is the messaging where I want it to be? Do I feel like, does that team and brokerage make me feel good, right? Then there's the systems, production and compensation. Is there strong systems? I am probably the least administrative person of our leadership team. I don't do administration well. I don't set up systems well. Production is not my greatest strength. So I have surrounded myself with people that are really, really good at those types of things. And then of course, the compensation is always something people are interested. In high performing teams, team members are engaged and they're connected. There's a sense of purpose. There's a connection to the brand, to the brokerage, of the team, and the messaging. And there's collaboration. You hear a lot about that, particularly with the younger generation. Is in your culture, do you collaborate? Do people work together? Or is everybody out on an island in themselves? And as 1099 employees, I don't care what brokerage you are with, that always seems to be a challenge for folks. How do you build that? How do you build that collaboration? How do you build those relationships? So. And then lastly, I would say, or the second to last, I'd say value delivery is every day. How are you as a team leader or as a broker? How are you delivering value to your team? What are your team members looking for in terms of technology, systems, support, et cetera? And then lastly, development opportunities. The Marine Corps, as I suggested, our model is everybody is a leader. And our role as a broker is to find those development opportunities for each of our team members on a regular basis. And so we strive to accomplish that for our folks on a daily basis. So as important, and we'll get more into this as in the recruiting section, but as important is you want to take a look as a strong team leader, as a brokerage owner, you want to look at why agents are leaving, right? And understand, in today's world, I just saw a presentation the other day about the effects of COVID and the effects of the rioting and kind of the general nature of our society today. And I thought it was very interesting because they related it to the interaction that people are having and how they feel about their lives. And I won't go into great detail, but essentially what it said was, you can't be under, because of COVID-19 and the rioting and all the stress, our brains are switching from what they termed the Einstein mode, which is the higher level thinking, is how do we solve problems and how do we build value and how we do all these other things, to the Frankenstein side of the brain, which is the side of the brain that's more rudimentary in terms of how am I going to survive? How am I going to, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to, I'm always constantly under attack. So I'm not going to think about all these building businesses and building teams and all these higher level things. I'm going to focus on my sustenance. Where am I going to get my next meal, right? And so what effect does that have on team members and people when they're thinking about coming and going or joining a team or leaving a team? So keep that in mind, because I think there's a material difference between what people are thinking today and how they're thinking, how they're making decisions versus a year ago, right? So anyways, so why do agents leave teams? Well, there's really no connectivity. They don't feel the affinity. There's lack of systems. There's no connection with the brand. Maybe the brand isn't delivering value to them. Maybe the team isn't delivering value to them. There's no or too few of wins, right? We talked about celebration. I think, we go out of our way to celebrate success, to find that 1 minute opportunity to recognize somebody for going over and above, and really celebrating that success. So, I don't have this up, Jake, and I don't know if you guys are keeping track, but I probably should have said, if there's any, I tend to talk quickly and kind of get into presentation mode. If there's anybody that wants to stop me and challenge me or questions, can someone let me know? Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll let you know, man. We're just blowing up the chat window with aha moments and stuff like that. So you're doing good.
All right, cool. So, right, so, having the opportunity to celebrate those successes and find those people that are going over and above, particularly our administrative staff in our organization, is probably one of the most valued groups of people. They are the heart and soul of our organization. And I will tell you right now, if there's any brokers that are out there finding servant leaders for your office leader, we call them office leaders, you traditionally call them administrative folks. I'm telling you right now, if you're going to make an investment, make it in those people. They will make your lives really, really great or very miserable. So they're really tough to find. Good ones are really tough to find, right? And then, other reasons why people are leaving, recruited by other teams, right? There's shiny objects, right? There's lots of new, from my perspective, there's lots of new brokerage models in the business. It seems like everyone, well, it seems like Wall Street thinks that there's a lot of money in the brokerage business. I would care to differ a bit, but maybe I'm wrong. There's lots of new and shiny objects out there on a consistent basis. So battling back all those shiny objects. In my world, there's we have traditionally a lot of 60-plus-year-old associates, and some of those folks are now choosing early retirement or to retire. But almost always there's this lack of emotional connection. There's, we talk about that emotional connection. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but I would suggest to you, if you don't remember anything about my presentation other than this, that building emotional connections to your team and to your brokerage is probably the most critical thing that you can do, particularly in the environment that we're in right now. then, you know, you've got the folks that are, show me the money. All they want is, if, you know, I want no fees, I want no split, I want to make all the money. I don't care what you do for me as a broker. They find no value in brokerage or teams, and they just want, they want to make the most money. And then you've got the agents that are not willing to do what they need to do to succeed. By the way, Jake kind of referenced that that 97% that's out there. Guys, the one thing that I've learned that it's really difficult to control is motivation. Sure, I can get people to an event, I can get them charged up, I can get them all excited, I can give them the tools, I can give them leads, I can do all the things that I can do as a broker, but if they lack the motivation, unfortunately, that seems to be kind of a silver bullet, and I would suggest maybe one of the most difficult issues to overcome as a broker or a team leader. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, and by the way, you know, this virtual thing, I've done lots of in-person presentations. The virtual thing is a little bit strange for me because, you know, I don't get to see the faces and I don't get to see kind of the reactions of where we're going with things. And so if you do have any feedback, please feel free to let me know, right?
Eric, you're getting lots of thumbs up, lots of people in there quoting what you're saying. So you've got them on all ears.
All right. Thank you for letting me know.
You got it.
Listen, again, I'm not suggesting that these are all the answers. I'm just suggesting, guys, I've been doing this for 20 years, and with my experience, I would tell you these are the things that have worked for us. So Kit and I have done a lot of work on with our team members and the people that team leaders that are building teams. And again, I would tell you, you know, if you're considering a coach from the locker room, I would tell you I would wholeheartedly support that decision. And in fact, I'll leave my information or contact information. You can call me offline, and I'll share our experience. Now, Kit is the locker room coach that covers our brokerage. And I'm not sure how many people that you have now, Kit, but maybe 15, 20. I know that number is growing. But I'll tell you the experience that I've had is she and I think very similarly in regards to when you're building a team, right? We start off with, you know, kind of know thyself, right? What's your motivation? Why? I have a lot of team leaders that get into the team leader role, or that talk to me about opening a brokerage because they want to make money, right? They think that, oh, you know, that's fine. I own a team, I'm not going to have to work. I hear all these stories about if I have a big team, I can, you know, I can charge my mortgage people and I can share costs, co-op marketing costs. And, you know, I can just, you know, hire all these people and I can sit back and maybe go to Florida for 3 or 4 months during the winter and not really worry about it. And I challenge you a bit on that, guys. If you're thinking, you know, your motivation is, you know, principally, I want to build a business that makes me a lot of money. I don't know. Maybe there are models out there that's capable. What I'll tell you is that I've gone through kind of iterations as you grow and you're in that growth mode, and then you kind of peak off, and then you go through some changes and you recalibrate, and then you grow some more. I've had like 5 or 6 of those trajectories peak, and I've never got to that point where I could that I felt comfortable just kind of taking 3 months off or any extended period of time off and going and doing something else. And so what I would tell you, my experience is that from a motivation standpoint, sure, you can build a business that has value and that will make money, but really, you know, knowing your why and understanding what it is that you're attempting to do is critical. And if it's principally to make money, I would say, you know, you should check that, because I think the good, strong teams, the good, strong brokers that are out there have good, strong leaders that are impactful, that are vested, and that are servant type leaders that are out there. So either way, no matter how you define your motivation, you have to be crystal clear on what your culture is going to look like, right? What's your magic mix? What's your magic potion that's going to attract people, right? What's going to keep people, once you've attracted them, because what you're going to find, and Kit's going to talk a little bit more about this later, is that, you know, getting people to come over is one thing, getting them to stay is something completely different. So building a culture, having a crystal clear vision on what that culture is, what your mission, vision, values are, right? Being able to talk about your mission, vision, values in a meaningful way, right? Being able to give that 30-second elevator speech about what makes your team or your brokerage special, right? And talk about you as a leader and the leaders that you have within your team organization and what they do and how they do it, right? And we talk a lot about leaders and being leaders in the military style of the Marine Corps style of leadership, being servant, visionary, that leader being the hardest worker on the team. You may find it interesting that in the Marine Corps, I wasn't in the Marines, so with respect for all those folks that are out there that know better, if I get it wrong, then my apologies, but thank you for your service either way. Our understanding is that officers eat last in the Marine Corps. And so in our world, the leaders, the higher up on the traditional ladder that you are, the lower you are in our organization in terms of prestige. So you work, the higher up you are, the more people you work for. So I work for everybody within our brokerage. So if that helps anybody, or if I maybe just confuse everybody, let me know. And then understanding, you know, having a understanding, by the way, of what's the profile of your team members look like. I think I think that if there's one place that I see teams fail over and over is because they build their culture, they build their ideas, they have all this understanding of what they want to do, and then they get an opportunity to recruit somebody that doesn't meet with the profile of the people that they want on their team, but because they are driven by, you know, maybe the wrong things, maybe a fiscal model, or maybe they just want somebody, they're so happy, you know, you're so happy that somebody will talk to you about joining your team or your brokerage that you take them anyway, even though they don't fit that model, that culture that you want. That's, I think, one of the biggest mistakes. And by the way, guys, I've made every mistake, every possible mistake that you can make in terms of recruiting, building businesses, and it's not the problem. The problem is not recognizing that mistake before it becomes more catastrophic. So know that you're going to make mistakes when you're building your business. Know that you're going to have iterations, and learn from them and move on. And if you do that, if you focus on learning, everything will be just fine. So trying to keep an eye on my clock. Looks like I think you have me until 11 o'clock. I think we might be a little bit short on that, but I'll leave some time for questions. So building the systemic affinity. We talk a lot about, at my brokerage, we talk a lot about building systemic affinity. It's our reputation, it's our business, and our business being in real estate, we affect communities, we affect and we engage in our communities on a regular basis. So, you know, having again, a crystal clear understanding of what your culture is, and, you know, the message that you're taking to your market. You know, are you engaged in your communities? Are you engaged? We talk a lot about owning communities, and we define communities different than geographical communities. We talk about communities being like your church community or your kids' hockey team community. If anybody that's involved with kids' sports these days knows that every one of those groups is really a community in and of itself. Whether you're baseball, hockey, band, it doesn't matter. They have their own culture. They have their own affinity. And if you can be part of that and own that culture or be part of that culture, I think it says volumes. You know, I talked a little bit about building and focusing on how you make people feel. Listen, if the logical connection isn't there, I'm going to tell you that the relationship's going to fail no matter what you do, right? If the logical connection's not there, you're going to fail no matter what in terms of building that relationship with your team members or your associates. You know, if that logical connection's there, I think the higher level connection is that emotional connection, right? Maya suggested to us that I've learned that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how that you make them feel. And so, focusing on that emotional connection, focusing on making people feel good. I'll tell you what we do within our brokerages, and I've done this for the last 15 years. We know every one of our associates' birthdays. We know every one of our associates' significant other birthdays. We've asked for children's birthdays. We've asked for significant dates like anniversaries, those sorts of things. And we recognize those things, not in a ostentatious way, but maybe we'll send flowers, or maybe we'll send just a card, or maybe I'll just pick up the phone and wish somebody a happy birthday. But we try to celebrate those special events and make people feel like they're important. And I'll tell you, as you grow, that's the biggest problem that I've had as a kind of more of a servant leader who wants to know people. I want to be involved in the human condition. I want to know people on a personal level. As you get bigger, 500 people, it's an impossibility for me. So having that information, using technology to have that information and use it and make people feel connected becomes more and more critical as you grow. So we try to make every aspect of the experience with our associates a positive experience, right from the physical plant, the office space that we have, to the resources that we use, the tools, the technology. Again, our staff, I'm telling you, if there's one thing, one huge mistake, I'll tell you, I've made a lot of them. The biggest mistake I made was not recognizing just how important our administrative staff was, specifically our office leaders, the folks that are in the trenches with our associates on a daily basis, until about 5 years ago. I don't learn quickly. I'm not that smart. And so I almost got hit over the head. We had somewhat of a mass mutiny on our hands with our office leaders because of some of the things that I was doing as a leader. And since then, I can tell you, we meet with our administrative staff on a regular basis. We show them on a regular basis how important that they are to us. We build that connectivity and that emotional connection on a regular basis. And I'll tell you, it has absolutely paid off in spades. We've got office leaders that are now becoming recruiters for us, and helping us with things like our team meetings and what have you. So any questions on that, feel free to let me know, again, either during this presentation, after the presentation, or after. So let's shift gears just a little bit, right? We talked a little bit about what a team is, the difference between a team and a high-performing team. We've talked about why, what your team should look like, and why it's important to understand what your culture is. And so, let's talk a little bit, shift gears a little bit about how to go to market. Now, I'll tell you I came back from Arizona in 2002. I started this. I've actually bought an existing RE/MAX brokerage that had 18 folks in it, and I fired 4 right off the get-go because they didn't fit with my culture. And so I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have any real reason to be an owner of a brokerage. In fact, I didn't have my broker's license. I hadn't been in the business long enough to have a broker's license. So I made this big investment, and then I woke up the day after I had closed, and I thought to myself, what in the hell did I just do, right? And I went to work, right? I didn't know what I was doing or how to do it. I just said, listen, if I've got 2 choices, I can let this analysis paralysis, or whatever you want to call it, paralyze me, and I can live with 14 associates the rest of my life, or I can decide where it is that I want to go and what I want to do. And so I went to work on my culture, building my what my value proposition looks like, and what have you. And so I remember, and for those of you that are newer to either the brokerage business or the staff or the team business, I remember the first call that I went on. In fact, I remember the first 5 or 10 recruiting calls that I went on, because I got absolutely destroyed. I remember the first call was with a large team leader, and about halfway through the call, he and she got up and said, listen, this is a colossal waste of our time. You don't know what you're doing. And so thanks for your time, but we're out of here. And so, little hurt, right? But kind of recalibrated and went back to work, put my recruiting message back together, went back on a second or third call and found out that, that I had 4 or 5 misspellings in my proposal. And by the way, the folks that found those misspellings have been members of our brokerage since 2004. So they were forgiving of my lack of attention to detail. But what I'll tell you is you got to go to work, right? Team recruiting, building your value, having an understanding of what your message needs to be. That's all great, but in the end, if you're not making any calls, if you're not recruiting people, your team is not going to grow. You're not going to build a team or a brokerage. So let's look at the main sources for us on the recruits. Our largest, by a long shot now, our largest source of recruits is referrals from our current staff and associates. We on a twice annual basis ask one question is use the Net Promoter Score. Would you refer us to other in the business? And if we are not at 95% or greater, then we know that we've got some work to do with our current associates and staff. So we get out there, we do that on a regular basis, right? So then we go out, like I had said, you got to get out there and make recruiting calls. You've got to build a recruiting website. You got to, ours is called Join the Advantage. We had to join, particularly when I was smaller, we joined lots of industry organizations. I was in the several different parts of the Realtor Association. I was on many boards and did all that. And I don't do as much of that anymore, but all of those could be great sources for recruits, great opportunities for you to tell your story. So one of the things that we use in addition to that is co-ops, the thank yous that go outside of transactions that you're doing as a broker. As a team leader, you may ask your broker for those co-op lists and find out whether or not those team members that you're considering did a good job with the transaction that you did with them. So, and then I think the largest overlooked opportunity is recruits from recruits. When we have people join our organization, one of the things that I do, I take a personal interest in that onboarding process, make sure that when someone comes to our organization that they feel the love, that they feel the connectiveness, that they know that we have all these systems. And in fact, the biggest problem that we have in our organization is there's kind of information overload. So we got to be careful with inundating folks with too much information. So other sources of recruits would be event recruiting. We have every year in November, we have an event called Realize, where we bring in a industry speaker and a motivational speaker. We find that that is probably our most well-attended. Last year we had over 600 folks that attended that event. So, I think with COVID this year, we're limited 250, but we're going to open it up on a Zoom type of platform. So we're hoping to get that same number. But I'll tell you that opportunity, we've had industry speakers, several who if I mention them. We're gonna twist Jake or Kit's arm here this year and maybe get them to come and share some insight with us. But job fairs, industry events, doing some things. The BNI group, the church organizations, the sports organizations, the kids sports organizations, by the way, are absolute gold. So if you haven't considered those being parts of those types of organizations, if you find we have recruited several folks, several associates to our brokerage through kids sports organizations. And it seems funny, but when you find like-minded people and you have that dialogue and you tell them about your story, it's funny how those things work. Now, I'm going to shift gears a little bit, tell you a couple of the recruiting programs that we've used in the past. For those brokers that are out there, use it. For those team leaders that are out there, feel free to use it. We have one that I like the best. It's Call My Associates Challenge, where we send a message out to the top 500 agents in our local area and in our geography. And I say, listen, I'll give you $50. All you have to do, and by the way, some of them I go to $100. All you have to do is call one of my associates, ask them one question, right? What do you think about RE/MAX Advantage Plus? And then have that associate let me know that you called, have lunch or coffee with me, and I'll give you $50, right? So you have a coffee or a lunch, and you get $50 out of it. The high pressure, there's no high pressure. We believe that who you work for is a life decision. So whether or not you find affinity in my message is critical. But if there's not, we're not going to try to convince you to come over because there is no logical connection with us. Then, like I said, we're bound to fail. So we also do things with our current associate population. We have a wanted program that we put a wanted poster up. People like you, $1,000 reward for a referral if we have lunch with a referral or coffee, and that person joins. 6 months after that person joins, our associate gets a $1,000 reward. We do a notice. I said we like to celebrate success. We like to celebrate the success of others. So we notice and acknowledge and celebrate the success of the top 500 associates in our geography on an annual basis. We should probably do this more often, but we send a letter of accommodation out to those 500 people, recognizing their success in the market. Should I take a breath, Kit?
Yeah, the only thing, can you just
How
go
we
back?
doing?
You're doing awesome. Can you go back and just clarify the Calling My Associates challenge? So just so they understand, if they are, you're going out to the market and you're going out to the 500 people in the marketplace and asking them to call your associates to ask the one question. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the associate population that I'm trying to attract is rather narrow, right? And so it dependent upon the team member or the associate, the agent that you're trying to attract as a broker or as a team leader, that harvest population may be much larger than 500. We like to focus because it's less expensive for us, and we're fairly targeted in terms of that agent that we're looking at. And so what we do is simply ask those folks to, we challenge them. Listen, if you're willing to call one of our associates, and we don't control that, obviously, right? We've got 500 people. Call one of the 500. Ask them how they like working for RE/MAX. I'm sorry, how they like working for my brokerage. My apologies. Right? And then have that person report back to us. We go out and have a coffee. They get $5 or $50 or up to $100, sometimes depending upon if it's a large team leader, something like that, right? So does that make
Yep. Thanks for the clarification. I just want to make sure that they understand, because I think that's brilliant. I think that's a brilliant idea, and I think that's a great way to say this is who we are, and we're standing out there. And come on and take a look at yeah, Jake's saying it's like reverse prospecting in a way. So thank you for clarifying. Right. Yep, great job.
Yeah. So the last three, and I'm going to use the third one I'm going to save the third one for last. Pending incentives, the fear of losing out programs, right? We've got several different things that we use within our brokerage to attract and to retain folks. And so we send those out on an as appropriate basis to that target market that's out there, recruits that we're looking for. We also do value messages, promotion of our associates. We really enjoy celebrating the success of the associates that we have and telling people about the success that they're having. So we just did a thing called and I'm going to remember the name of it. It's the Real Trends top associates top 1,000. So we're taking out a large article within the local trade publication, and we are going to celebrate the success of all of our associates that were recognized in Real Trends as being the top performers. So we love doing those types of things. We get a lot of positive emotional connection feedback from our associates on that. And then, the last thing, and I'll tell you, I learned this from one of our big competitors in our market. They, on an annual basis, send out a message to all of our associates. They copy the listings of our associates through the co-op program, and they send it to our our associates and they say, listen, look at how much business, how much awareness and activity that our website is generating for your listing. Is your broker working, is your broker's technology working as hard for you as ours would be? So if it's not, come talk to us. Well, so we did just a little bit of homework, and between our brand and between our local website and between the associates websites, we found out that our productivity and activity level is actually almost twice as much as the brand that's attacking us. So this bear is going to bite back just a little bit here in the near future on that note. So anyway, I'd suggested that who you recruit is important. I'll tell you, we use the DISC. I think it's pretty commonly used within recruiting and hiring organizations to know kind of that personal profile. I'm sure you guys are going to talk more about it, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Guys, I'll tell you one of the most important, my mentor was a guy named Bill Saunders. Bill passed away about 6 years ago. Bill always said to me, the number one mistake you're going to make as a team leader or as a broker owner is you're going to hire the wrong people. And of course I did that. And of course he was right, because they, those folks, they seem to kind of disrupt. They become a problem within the organization. They're the ones that are always in your office asking to renegotiate splits or renegotiate their deals. And they're, the first ones to raise their hand when there's a problem. And they're the last ones to show up when there's something that needs to be worked on in a productive way. So, again, probably the most important thing you can do is make sure that you're hiring the right people. So let's talk a little bit about the actual recruiting appointment. Again, there's lots of different methodologies that are out there. I've got some books that I can recommend in regards to the psychology of the sale and those sorts of things. But what I'll tell you is that I'm not that great of a salesperson, and so what I tend to do is try to load the situation in my favor, right? So what I do is I try to find out as much information as I possibly can about the recruit, and I'll tell you, in today's age versus when I started, believe it or not, Facebook didn't exist. BlackBerry was just coming onto the scene. There were no iPhones and those sorts of things, right? So back then, you really had to do a lot of work to find information. These days, you can find information kind of ad nauseum about people. It's actually kind of scary how much you can find. But having the knowing birthdays, knowing family members, knowing special events, any accolades, right? Looking at Broker Matrix or whatever you use to find production levels, looking at the social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, talking to peers and friends, talking to associate groups, sports memberships, those sorts of opportunities. The ask needs to be a knowledge-based ask. It needs to be, listen, I know that there's a logical connection already. Let's see if I can make an emotional connection with you, right? So if there's a referral base, it makes it easier, right? And so we don't do any cold calls. Cold calls are absolutely outlawed within our organization because they just tend to not be as effective. So, once we've done our homework, we get into the recruiting meeting. I'll tell you, I've been with a lot of different recruiters. I've hired a lot of recruiters. I've been part of organizations that have done a lot of hiring. What I'll tell you is that attitude is everything. Having a positive attitude, having an attitude that is the one that reflects the culture that you have, that is consistent with the attitude that you want to attract, like-mindedness, right, is critical. If you don't have the right attitude, cancel the appointment, reschedule it, because you're not going to get the desired outcome, right? And so, and keep in mind that that who people work for is a life decision. It could be critical. So, there are opportunities where I have people that want to come to work for us that actually I think might culture-wise be a good fit, but who I don't take because I can't take the responsibility of their success. And so in our organization, newer associates are somewhat problematic because we don't have the multiple levels of training that are available. So, if I can find a team leader that will take someone that'd be a good fit, then I do that. So, And then, I'm gonna say this about the sales calls is I've been in, again, lots of sales calls where, kind of like being approached by, the old stereotypical used car salesman. All they want to do is tell you about them, tell you about the car, tell you about the product. They just throw up everything that they've got to. It's like there's a race to get out the information. And I can tell you guys, the key to, besides having a positive attitude, the key to a successful recruiting meeting is to listen. Ask lots of questions. If you find yourself talking more, then I can tell you you're losing control of that meeting, and you need to put your pencil down, shut your mouth, and open your ears, right? You've heard the expression that God gave you one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. He'll never more important in a recruiting meeting than that. So lots of open-ended questions, right? Really establish that rapport, have a sincere, and by the way, if you're not sincere about your interest in learning about that person and their success, again, I would say maybe you need to challenge the reasons why you're doing what you're doing, because I find that building that emotional connection is critical. So analysis of the current situation, we talked a little bit about the difference between a team and a high-performing team. Here's where this kind of rubber meets the road. Understanding, is the current situation, asking questions about are you part of a high-performing team or high-performing brokerage, or are you just part of a group, right? A loosely affiliated group of folks that is bonded by a common brand, which, by the way, is not going to last in today's high-pressure environment, right? So, and things about, tell me about your life, tell me about what keeps you up at night, right? Where do you want to be in 3 years? What do you like about your broker? What do you not like about your broker? Where do you find emotional connectedness with the people that you work with? All those things are great questions. What you really want to do is find and build the connectiveness with that emotional connectiveness with what you're doing and how you're doing it. So once you've got that information about that person, about where they're at, where their mindset is, once you feel confident that there is a connection, then you go to the tell, right? Here's what I've got. Here's why we think this place for you for your next trajectory of your career. This is why we'd love to go to work for you, and this is what we think we can do for you. And then, the close, I always, I don't believe in a hard close. I believe that this is something, I don't believe in selling people's homes, right? I think that this is a situation where you can lead them to right to that decision, but people need to make this decision where they work for, whether they're going to buy this house on their own, because I've sold people on coming to my brokerage before, and it's turned out to be a bad thing. So I was kind of refer it to the Neil Diamond approach. I always leave them wanting more, right? Neil Diamond, have you ever seen him in concert? I have. It's a situation where we leave it on no matter what the outcome is, we leave on a positive note. We always leave our recruits wanting more from us. So with that, I just thought I would share my mission, vision, value with you. Our mission is currently going under a kind of a wordsmithing. What we're trying to do is cultivate the conditions for success in a culture that empowers a community of leaders. It kind of gets to be a tongue twister, but I'll tell you, it does reflect exactly what we're trying to do within our organization. So with that, I'm coming up against my hour. So I would say this: I'm going to leave my contact information with Jake and Kit. If there's anything that I can do for any of you moving forward, I'd be happy to invest some time. I've been fortunate enough to have some really, really positive mentors in my life, and if I can give back and help make somebody else's life better, I'd be happy to do that. So again, Jake, Kit, thank you for the opportunity. I hope.
Yeah, you've done an amazing job, Eric. It's wonderful. And the one, I know there's a question there. Ruben, can you repost that question? Because it might be back a little bit. And I didn't see it.
I've got it.
You've got it? Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I just, the chat's blowing up with the value that you've brought, Eric. And one thing that I'm going to just point out that that I know about you is that you watch people over time. So you might learn about somebody, but you're a master connector. You may have had a conversation with somebody, somewhere in the back of your mind, you stuck in there something that they may need in the future. And you come to them at a longer period so that your recruiting strategy is not a one and done. I've known that it is taking you years in some cases. Some, yes, it is a one and done, but establishing that relationship for a long time and never coming from a point of, always coming from a point of service. What can I do to serve you? Is there something, I saw you needed this, and that you are a master connector in that way. And I just wanted to acknowledge you for that, and how great you did in sharing with us today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, I'll tell you this, we give an award away every year for the longest recruiting cycle for someone that joins our organization every year. We have, I'll just leave it at Karen. Karen is a recruit that was a #1 producer in one of the geographies we were in. 14 years.
Yeah.
14 years. Probably 12 coffees and lunches, constant communication, back and forth. What I'll tell you guys is the one constant in our world is change, right? And brokers drop the ball. Brokers lose their connection with agents. And so even if you do your best, people's lives change, their conditions change, so they may leave. So yeah, staying in, it's a battle. Every day you got to go to work, right? And I love it. I love people, and I love helping people achieve their goals. So I tell you, if you're like that, if you love helping people, you're in the right, if you're a broker or your team leader, you're in the right job.
Eric, I'll step in here real quick because I want to get to Ruben's question, and we're going to put you on the spot. But before I do that, I just want to make a couple comments too. Great job, first of all, again, man. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom and experiences and humbling yourself before us. It's pretty awesome. So there was a couple words that you had said that I wrote down that really stood out to me was affinity. Affinity and emotional connection. And that goes right along with what Kit's saying is you're just a relational guy. Like, here's who we are. Here's what we stand for, what we're about. We're either meant to be in business together or we're not. And either way, it's kind of like, it's okay. Like, I'm not going to sell you or convince you, let alone chase you, but I will help in whatever capacity that looks like. So I just think that's worth noting, because to me, and there's, to agents, how we as coaches coach the agents more oftentimes than not is to be a relationship-based coach,
right,
or run a relationship-based real estate business, not a transactional one. So as broker owners and as leaders, how are we creating our companies? Is it transaction-based? Well, yes, it is. If you don't know their birthday and their dog's name, what's important to them, you're a transaction-based company, right? Maybe that's how you want it, but I think the sticky factor is that emotional connection running a relationship-based brokerage. That's what I heard. So here's the question. Sorry, that was a long ramble. So Ruben, basically, I'm going to summarize it, was asking you, do you have like a go-to question for a top recruit or an agent you're after? Do you have like that go-to question that leads them towards a self-discovery of, wow, yes, I do need to make a change? Is there really one way to summarize that?
I don't know necessarily that I have a silver bullet question. I have a set of questions that I ask pretty consistently, and tell me about your broker. Tell me about your current situation, right? And it's funny that what I have found when I say, tell me about your current situation, right? Most times, salespeople, we want to tell the story, right? And so no one asks me, well, what situation? My business situation, my life situation, what do you, and so it's what I find is interesting is the answers that I get and how telling that those answers are, right? Some people will go into, well, I just got divorced and, my kids left me, my truck doesn't run, thinking about being a country music singer, those types of things. And some people will say, well, I'm the top producing agent in my office, and my broker doesn't pay any attention to me. I don't connect with the tools. I don't use anything that they've got. And I'm really, kind of trying to take my career to the next level, right? And so I think rather than saying, is there one question, I would say there's a set of 2 or 3 questions, probably 3 questions. Tell me about where your current condition. Tell me about where you want to go, and tell me about how you think a broker might help you get there. Right? Those would be my 3 questions that I would ask on a regular basis.
That's good. That's good stuff. Well, everybody, hey, Eric, great job, man. And the chat window has been blowing up, giving you massive kudos. So thank you for being real. Thank you for everything once again. And we'll make sure we, Kit, why don't we post his information, because he said that would be okay, in the chat window, so that way everybody has it and can copy and paste and do what they need to do with that. Is that okay, Kit?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, cool.
Absolutely.
Eric, man, I am not excited to have to go after you and follow that up. So thank you.
Whatever. Whatever. I do a lot of things well. Zoom meetings probably is not my great strength, but I've seen you in action, my friend. You're gonna blow it out of the water. And hey, thanks everybody for putting up with me this morning. I appreciate it. Like I said, if I can help out in any way, let me know.
We'll do it. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks
Thanks,
Eric,
guys.
so much. All righty.
Awesome. Just you and me now, Kit.
All righty.
I guess I'm up next.
Yeah. So I'm gonna sign off. I'm gonna close myself off, and I'll get Eric's information on the chat for everybody.
Awesome. Awesome. Sounds good. Well, again, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Jake. I'm the founder of The Locker Room, and we want to put this event on today to really add value to you guys. And so I trust that you're getting value. Again, blow up the chat windows. If there's any questions, we'll try and get to them. And I'm understanding it's 11:02 Central Time, that I will try my best to finish a little early if there is questions, of course, or if we need to take like a 5 or 10 minute bathroom break and come back for the remainder of this, then we will do that. All right. So Eric touched on growth. I'm now going to touch on productivity. And what you can look then forward to is Kit is going to talk about retention strategies, and we're going to close it out then with Hank talking about profitability. All right. So let me get my screen pulled back up here. And let's rock and roll, maybe. There we go. All right, guys, so I'm going to dive right into this, and I'm going to talk to you today from the angle as a coach, as a leader, from me to you, from you to your people, your agents, your associates, all right? So I'm going to kind of break this up into 2 fashions. Number 1, we're going to start by diving into the 5 keys that I believe are the most important when it comes to agent productivity. And then part 2 of that is going to be really some of the psychology and tactics to use to get them into action. It's one thing for them to self-identify what they know they need to be doing. Well, yeah, I know. And yet week after week, day after day, they still don't do it. Or am I the only person out there who can relate with that? Yeah, no, probably not. So we're going to give you 4 distinct tactics, methods, call it what you want, in order to help with agent productivity and how to get them into action to close it out for today. So without further ado, to put this in perspective, again, I'm like Eric, I'm going to humble myself before you. I don't know it all, and certainly I'm not the most, seasoned real estate expert in the world, but I have had a unique perspective because as I speak to you today, in the last 2.5 years, we have served over 160 real estate brokerages, which ends up compiling to over 6,000 real estate agents, most who represent that blue ocean, that 97% of NAR who sell 24 or fewer homes per year. That is our specialization. The way we do that is by partnering with real estate companies and the leadership of those companies, because it's the path of least resistance to get to the masses who need what we have, right? And so I share that with you because part of my journey was I started in real estate in 2017, and then I became a CEO of a major real estate franchise, an office of a real estate franchise with 300, 400 plus agents in it. And it was through that experience that I self-discovered my own path, my own passion, which was coaching, helping the individual agent by getting in the trenches with them, rolling up the sleeves and helping them figure out what the heck they want and how they're going to get it. And so for that reason, I became a full-time real estate coach back in just 2016, the tail end of 2016. And my very first year as a coach in this particular office, we generated, check this out, we generated over $1 million of brand new company revenue just by working with those agents. So the agents I was personally coaching combined to sell over, or to receive over $3.6 million of commissions, which resulted in over $1 million of company revenue that year with the company. So what we did was, thank goodness, we documented those systems, And now we were able to plug and play them into multiple locations, and that's what we know the locker room as today. All right. Now, what was really cool about that and why this is relevant is after doing that for 3 years in this particular office, I'm kind of a nerd. I love to study the numbers and tell the story about what the numbers are telling us. And what we found was the agents who were coaching with our team at the time would earn 255% more in GCI than the agents who did not enroll in the coaching with us. That's a pretty staggering number. And I don't romanticize numbers. I don't play politics with them. That's just what the number said, okay? And so what we've done is looking back, I'm going to show you what I believe are the 5 keys to agent productivity as a leader, where your attention should be to drive the right behaviors and attitudes to help your agents be successful. This is kind of like you wearing a coach consulting hat as the leader that you are, and this is more or less like your 20%. 20% that's going to help your agents or your bottom line achieve the 80% of the results you're looking for. Does that make sense? So with that being said, what are they? Here they are, and we'll dive in each one specifically. Write these down if you choose to. The first one we're going to talk about is mindset. I believe everything starts and finishes with mindset. So that's naturally number 1. Number 2 is activities. Number 3, results. Number 4, skill set development. And number 5, systems and processes. If that's all you do is help every single associate that has the brand name of your company on it, you will win, and you will win at a very high level. So let's dive into this. By the way, I do believe this is in that specific order as I outlined it, okay? So given that, if you're in agreement with me that everything really truly begins and ends with mindset, that's where we have to start. It doesn't matter if you're coaching a brand new agent or somebody doing $150 million a year with a team. I've coached them both. Nobody has arrived, and everyone is susceptible to having some stinking thinking going on up here. They got some junk in the trunk. Okay. By the way, my presentation style is I just speak, and so forgive me in advance. All right, so everything begins and ends with it. How are you doing when it comes to supporting your associates on their mindset? It's one thing to protect your own, right? Isn't that why sometimes we can say leadership is lonely? You're kind of like on an island, which is why we here have to come together and support one another and put ego aside and not give a rat's you know what brand or flag you're flying. All that junk is stupid that goes on in our industry of us versus them. If we just band together saying, no, we are one team, we are a team of leaders in the real estate community, let's just do the right thing and help one another so we can better show up for our people, we're gonna win, and our people are gonna win. And last time I checked, that's what a lot of this is about. So how are you going about doing that? Well, for me, I believe it personally starts with really clear standards and really clear communication around what the expectations are. You just heard Eric say it. One of the very first things most of you probably need to do as a takeaway, as an action item, is get really clear around your mission, vision, and values. Guys, if you're just trying to attract people with any pulse, how's that going? You're going to have a lot of turnover, a lot of headache, and a lot of unnecessary expenses as a result of that. So once you get clear around your mission, vision, and values, now that can be translated into your standards and expectations. So that way, I once heard, you don't push people, you push standards. So whoever is a part of your organization, as long as you're clearly communicating those standards and expectations to them, that shapes their mindset. That shapes how they show up. Because it's a choice, isn't it? Every day, it's a choice of how they want to show up. I'll guarantee some of you, most of you, all of you, come on, have people right now that you want it so freaking bad for them that you can taste it. One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn as a leader in real estate is I cannot want it more for someone else than they want it for themselves. And if you follow that breadcrumb trail back to the root issue, the root cause, where's my DNA in it? I knew that I had to get better right there at bullet point number 2 because I was failing them on standards and expectations. And I was willing to not have an emotional attachment to the outcome by saying, look, here's what we expect. Here's the standards at which we operate. If you're cool with that, let's go. If not, that's okay. That doesn't make me bad or arrogant, and that doesn't make you bad or whatever, right? We're just not on the same page, and that's okay. Why why even start this relationship if we know how it's going to end in the first place? Okay. So mindset, it is linked, is my point, to standards and expectations, because if you're just shoveling anybody in with a license and not having this initial dialogue and clarity around it, that's gonna result in some gossip. And we know when gossip is up, production is down. And this is all about productivity. Can we all agree, hopefully, that at the end of the day, productivity matters, you guys? I mean, you say what you want. This is a cultural thing. A lot of times we say culture is like how we treat people and similar belief systems. It is those things. But a part of your culture can absolutely be productivity. We have a culture of productivity, and here's what we expect, and here's the standards at which we operate. That's pretty attractive to the right person, right? That's why some of these sports teams are who they are, even when they don't have the biggest payrolls, is because they're very clear about the expectations and the mindset that every single player on the team better show up to game time with, better show up to practice with, and if not, you're benched, fined, or maybe even kicked off the team. Because this person over here in the locker room, you see what I did there, is not going to stand for this person who decided to pull up short from the line when they're running sprints. It's not acceptable. And if you create that culture, and it is one of a mindset, right, then you're going to create a Super Bowl championship winning team out of it. Now, another thing that we've certainly witnessed, guys, let's put ourselves in their shoes. And I'm really talking about new or newer agents. We got to know what they're coming from. We were all new once upon a time. Many of them are coming into this with an employee mindset. That's what they're used to, is the typical Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But let's get real. They're coming into this with a predetermined attitude, work ethic, set of expectations that are maybe not great ones, because they're all used to being told what to do with a job description, put in a box, here's what your time is worth and what I'm willing to pay you for it, okay? So we got to put ourselves and not ever forget that that's where they're coming from. And now all of a sudden, for the first time ever, they're going to be an entrepreneur and grow their own business. They have no idea what they're doing, let alone the mindset of a successful entrepreneur. I'm being general, but you get the idea. So that takes time. That is a process, because a lot of these folks, man, they say they want to earn 6 figures, and yet they walk into this with a $40,000 a year work ethic or mindset, in other words. Okay. So how do you help shape that? I'm just asking questions, guys, because something I may say ring true. I'm not going to pretend I've got all the answers, because if we were coaching together, we could get deeper on that. I'm just asking questions. How are you showing up to them and making sure that every associate has a great mindset, one of clear expectations, one that's helping them translate into an entrepreneurial mindset versus a fixed employee mindset? How are you doing that? Well, I'm with Eric on this one. In order to do that and do it effectively, you've got to get really personal. You've got to get relational. Okay, so however you go about doing that, that's the short answer of it. Fixed mindset versus open-minded. Man, let's change gears for a second. How many of you are chasing that top agent? You're like, wow, just if I could get that one agent, that one head turner, that would fix my brokerage, and boom, through the roof would we go. That's not always the case, guys, right? I don't know who that may apply to, but sometimes they come into your organization with a very fixed mindset. They know it all, right? They're not open-minded to change or anything like that. Is that really who you want to attract? I mean, going back to his term of collaboration, I don't care what your numbers are and how many units and volume and GCI and how many times you've crossed that stage with a fancy award in your hand. That doesn't matter to me as much as protecting the culture and making sure that we can all be humble and transparent with one another and collaborate with an open-minded mindset. And then finally, I guarantee you, all of you are leaders on here. You've heard of PITFAR before. Read a leadership book, or maybe some of you are on audible.com like I am, but it stands for, this is the cycle, right, of how we do what we do. It starts with the P, which is our programming. A lot of us are hardwired. A lot of us have viruses up here in our thinking. And I'm not making light of the actual coronavirus that's taking place, so don't give me a hard time about that. They're programming. leads to their thoughts. Their thoughts lead to their feelings. Their feelings lead to their actions, and their actions lead to their results. So good news for us, guys, this is a model. If you have an agent who says, I'm not getting the results I want to get, maybe I should go look for a real job, we have to work in reverse engineer order. Well, are you doing the actions that you need to do to produce that outcome? If not, what are your feelings around that action, like lead generation? What are your thoughts around that action of lead generation? What is your programming around something like that? Because a lot of them say things, well, I don't want to feel slimy and salesy and bother my friends. That's a programming issue. We got to get to the root cause of it, right? So I can pull weeds and pick at those weeds all day, but unless I get in there and pull out the root, it's going to keep growing and growing and growing again, especially when times get hard. All of us go to our default setting. Our hope is that their default setting with your leadership is one of open-minded, entrepreneurial, high standards and expectations. But again, that's not an event, it's a process. And you can shine the light on that with some of this information I'm giving here. Again, I told you, my approach today is giving you kind of a coach to coach advice, right? So now you can take some of this and go help your folks. All right, let's keep going. I got to move my little Zoom screen over here. There we go. All right, so, oh, well, there you go. I just did that. Culture of productivity. Sorry, I didn't recall I had 2 slides for this. We talked about some of this. Some practical things you can implement is, again, a culture of productivity. Team goals and visibility. How many of you have read The 4 Disciplines of Execution? If you haven't, put that book on your reading list among many, I'm sure. You need to have a team goal. What is your brokerage goal? I'm talking listings taken per month, volume closed per month, all of the main categories. What is the team goal? And how are you making it visible? Maybe it's in your training room or your Facebook group, but it has to be a team goal and it has to be constantly visible. Why would I say that? Well, I say that because you have a team, a group really, of individuals who, by and large, typically only care about their goal. Am I going to hit my goal or not? I'm telling you, one of the greatest lessons I've learned over the last 3 years specifically is taking a group of individuals who are only concerned about their goals and building a team, so they start asking you, hey, how are we doing towards the team goal? Oh my Lord, when you get to that point, you know you're doing something right, guys. So it starts with you as the leader to set the goal as a group, make it visible, keep it updated, keep talking about it, so they like to be a part of something bigger than just themselves. Also, valuing the individual. You heard Eric talk a lot about that. People don't remember what you say, but they remember how you make them feel. Guys, the answers are right in front of us. Get outside of our little real estate bubble because we're 1099s and look at the Census Bureau information. What are the top 2 reasons people quit their jobs? They spend most of their life hopping from one job to the next, trying to hopefully find fulfillment. Well, typically speaking, it's because they feel undervalued, underappreciated, and they don't feel heard, right? They're not using their talents and strengths to the fullest capacity. So to Eric's point, and I'm sure Kit will hit on some of this too when she talks about retention, valuing the individual, does that not link back to mindset too? Are they showing up today for you because they want to play hard for the team? Because you took the time out of your day to recognize them? Recognition, man. Babies cry for it, grown men and women die for it. That's an old little adage. But people work hard for recognition. It's amazing, isn't it, that they will work harder for an attaboy or attagirl with a Facebook post, so they get that street cred and recognition from their friends, than they will actually work for a commission check. Like, it's crazy to me sometimes. So how you might do that is peer-to-peer. Maybe some of you have private Facebook groups and communities that you can have these little, congratulatory posts up there. People will work hard for that and love on that, and it creates this contagious mindset of positivity and productivity. Maybe you as the leader can send out a text or an email or something every day with some daily wisdom, some daily inspiration, kind of like a power-up 30-second or less video that gets each associate in your company into the right mindset for the day. Let's go tackle it. And then finally, on this whole mindset thing, this is the longest one of them all, is sweating the small stuff. This goes right in line with kind of what Eric was saying as well. There's actually a book by Andy Andrews, my favorite author, that talks about this, sweating the small stuff. We grew up by hearing things like, oh, don't sweat the small stuff. I am here to submit to you today, yes, you should sweat the small stuff. Please do sweat the small stuff, because it's the little things that matter. It's going a little bit above and beyond that one extra degree, whether it's a handwritten note or just stopping somebody in the hallway and acknowledging something that they did or something that's going on in their own life. I mean, as leaders right now over the past several months, if you haven't been calling your agents, just checking in on them, has nothing to do with business, has everything to do with how are you as a human being? You've missed the mark, right? So I want you to sweat the small stuff and not take those little things for granted, because that is what creates that emotional connection or that affinity like we were talking about earlier. All right. So number 2, I told you there was 5. Number 2 is activities. This should go without being said. Now that we have the right mindset, we got to get our folks doing the right activities, right? So what are those? Well, first of all, if you're not doing goal setting, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching, team meetings, office meetings, you're missing it. If you're not helping your agents on an individual level get really clear on what it is they want and why they want it, and then reverse engineering from there. Okay, I say I want to make $100,000 a year, and I got to reverse engineer that down to the granular, so I know what are my leading indicators in order for me to achieve that lagging indicator. Y'all know this stuff, but it's very easy for us to take this for granted or claim we don't have enough time to do it with every agent. Shame on us if that's our attitude, right? Your agents deserve it. You owe it to them. Step up. So activities, goal setting is one, time management is another. How are they managing their time? Again, let's not forget, many of them come into this with a fixed mindset, an employee mindset. They saw something cool on HGTV. They had this entrepreneurial seizure that, hey, that sounds good. I'll get my real estate license. And all of a sudden, overnight, they're a business owner. They have no clue, probably most of them, how to prioritize or do what we often call time management. It is your responsibility to coach, to keep them accountable to that as it pertains to their lifestyle and their goals. I am not a hater. In fact, I love the dual career agents, or some of you might refer to them as part-time. I don't like that. Okay, dual career, transition agents. Let's help them go back and fire their boss, because now they can go full-time in real estate. 80-20. Okay, so we're talking about activities. We're talking about from a coach and a leader to a fellow leader. Well, Jake, what am I supposed to get them prioritizing? What is the 80-20 principle as it applies to this? Meaning the 20% of things that matter most from an individual agent's level should produce 80% of that outcome. And by the way, if you're not a believer in the 80-20 principle, that's a whole different day, a whole different conversation, but just go to your closet and I'll bet you that most of you are wearing 20% of your clothes. It's a real thing, okay? So here's what it boils down to, guys. Every day, your agents and us, to lead by example, every day, this is the real estate agent's job description. This is their 20%. Lead generate. When? Every day. Lead follow-up every day. Go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and script and role play. And I often challenge the agents that I'm coaching by asking, did you go to work today? Did you go to work yesterday? Are you planning on going to work tomorrow? Because I'll tell you what, if this is the job description and we go back to that employee mindset, if you show up a day or a few days in a row, let alone a week or a month without going to work, what happens? You get fired. You don't last very long. And oh, by the way, most times we're dealing with somebody's largest investment of their lifetime. Would you hire yourself to represent that property as the CEO? Come on now. And I know I don't need to say this to you all, or maybe I do, but again, are we communicating this to our agents? Are we helping them? Or we just have this attitude of, they'll figure it out. The good ones will make it, the other ones won't, and they take too much of my time anyways. That's part of the problem. That's part of the industry's problem. We've accepted it, which is why I get so flippin' passionate about the blue ocean, is because I'm tired of having that acceptance attitude. These agents did not enter the business hoping and praying to fail. Now, I can't want it for them. I get that, but there's a lot of our DNA in it as well. Okay. So if you have an agent, if you go back and communicate this to them and says, well, come on, Jake, I don't have any appointments to go on today or contracts to negotiate today. Okay, you have one of two options. Number one, you can continue to lead generate until you do. or number two, bump down to number 5. You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Role play as if you're on an appointment. Role play with a partner as if you're negotiating contracts. If you can't present that agreement upside down so another human being can follow along and understand it, you have mastered nothing, right? And that goes back to what we just spoke about, standards and expectations. Are we running a cheerleading company, or are we running a productivity specific brokerage that people want to be attracted to because they know what to expect when they get there? All right. Number 3. So we got mindset, activities. Now and only now do we drive those results. This is the lagging indicator. How many of us, because we're impatient, high D personalities many times, let alone our agents, because they're like, dude, my bank account is hurting, and you're sitting over here telling me that I'm not supposed to be concerned with results? No, I'm not saying that, but in some cases, it has to follow this order. You don't get results without having the right mindset, so you show up, let alone doing the right activities. A lot of our agents just want to skip over that stuff, and they judge success or failure every day, every week, every month, whether or not they had a closing or took a new listing. That's not exactly healthy, okay? We got to celebrate the stuff. But anyways, it goes back to, I said it earlier, goal setting and clarity. Do they know what they're supposed to be doing on a daily basis to drive the results that they're supposed to be getting? Because after so long, as long as they've been consistent, it's cute to focus on the activities, and that's the right thing to do, but it's not so cute if enough time has gone on where we should be getting results. Then and only then, if we measure something, can we improve it. So when it comes to the results, I've got to know very clearly what I'm driving towards and how those activities line up to it, that domino effect. Just continue to push them over. And goals, we've all heard this, right? Be smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-stamped, right? Don't let your agents off the hook by setting a goal and not having a timeline to it, or not kind of being too vague and like, that sounds good. Because how many agents, once again, enter this business saying they want to make 6 figures? Well, I want to make $100,000. Okay. Do I just hear that and accept it and move on, say, let's go make that happen? Or do I really dive in to understand what is their financial thermostat? Do they have a $40,000 mindset and work ethic, and now they're just saying that because it sounds good? 6 figures sounds good. We got to really deep dive into some of this stuff so we know it's specific, measurable, and all, the whole deal. Visuals. Back to the 4 disciplines of execution book. We've talked about visuals for the team goals, but you also need to have a visual or a scoreboard, if you will, for the individual's goal. Now, if you are with Locker Room, we offer you a platform to do that through Core. So you have awareness on contacts made, appointments set, closings, a lot of tracking categories as it measures goal versus actuals. But if you're not with us or don't, whatever, I don't care. Use something. Use a spreadsheet for all I care. Use a paper version. It doesn't matter, but there better be a visual, because the accountability around this is too dang important just to take their word for it or say, yeah, let's check in at the end of the month, see how you did. Okay. I know I mentioned earlier, and I'm beating a dead horse, but the recognition, right? When they have a success, guys, we can get numb to this stuff. Just like agents can get numb, possibly, to the closing, because this is what we do day in, day out. We help families buy and sell homes. Well, we lead people to successes, and if you're not careful, you can become numb to that too. Nothing is too big or small to celebrate with them, because in their world, at that moment in time, it may just be everything. And that's a missed opportunity from you to give them a pat on the back or a public shout out, whatever it may be, when they finally achieved that goal that they've been going towards, that first listing. You got to celebrate it. Not just the first closing. We got to celebrate. Hey, you got to celebrate if the result was, hey, I got my first FSBO appointment today. You should be celebrating that just as much as you celebrate their first closing, in my opinion, because it's a big deal to them. And of course, results matter. This was driven home. I played college and professional baseball, and my college coach would talk about this all the time. It matters. Winning versus losing matters. Guys, there's no participation trophy in real estate. We're all adults here. Adulting can be hard sometimes. Results matter. There is a massive difference in winning or losing, okay? If you win, man, your food tastes better, your boyfriend or your girlfriend looks better, you sleep better, like everything is better when you win. Don't give me that, well, you're trying hard and you're doing good. Like, no, it matters to get results here. And that's part of the reason is we can love people out of this business because we're not having truthful, candor-filled conversations with them. We just keep patting them on the back saying, well, you're trying hard. Well, so many times of hearing that, their bank account goes down and down and down and down, and then they leave your firm and they leave the business altogether. We can prevent that. We can be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem, guys. So now, skill set development, that's number 4, because now they've got the right mindset. They're doing the right activities. They're experiencing some success in the form of results. Now is when we can look at things like, well, your conversion rates could improve, right? You're going on 10 appointments and you're only converting 4. You're doing the right activities, but you're not getting the results we need to get. That's probably a skill set issue. So now, in my humble opinion, that's where we can really double down, because I don't have to worry about if they're going to pick up the phone anymore. So now we can get really laser focused on their skill set and how they're doing that. So once again, I ask you as leaders, what's your calendar look like? It doesn't matter if you're a 100% company, a franchise, it doesn't matter whoever you are on today's webinar. What does your training calendar look like? How are you giving back and pouring into your associates to grow them and their skill sets? Let me ask you, do you have goals? Does your calendar reflect those goals? Because probably the way you're going to achieve them is not through your own efforts. It's through the efforts of the associates that represent your company. I think it was Zig Ziglar who said, I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of one person's efforts, right? So if that's true and you believe that because, hey, you're a leader, you're on here today, I assume that you do, you better have a calendar that reflects your goals. And by doing so, it's pouring into them so they can be better. Do you have a culture, a company where there's coach and or broker support? Are you accessible? I didn't say you have to be available all the time. Are you accessible, reasonably available? Okay. Do they know they can go to you and approach you, or are they going to be made to feel dumb every time they do so? Are you willing to let them shadow you or shadow somebody in your organization to help improve their skill set? That's kind of stuff I'm talking about with the support. Now, we've got some coaches that are within the Locker Room organization who do wonderful at this next one, which is skill set workshops, skill building workshops. They have a designated time every week on their calendar for anybody who wants to go in and refine their listing presentation, their buyer consultation. It's this standing appointment on the training calendar that people can come and go, and you as the leader can also use it for a targeted by saying, hey, agent, I'm calling you specifically. I want to see you there. Okay, that way you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. You just have it reoccurring, whether it's weekly, monthly, you guys decide. But you better have an environment for skill building. Let's relate this to sports. Are most games won in the actual game itself? I would argue no. Games, championships are won in practice. And if I don't show up to practice, I don't play. And if I do play, I'm going to make a whole lot of mistakes that could have been taught and prevented by showing up for practice. So leaders, coaches, in other words, you got to have the whistle around your neck. I go back to your calendar. Are you facilitating opportunities, whether it's workshops, skill building events, you name it, script and role play practices, that says, hey, this is practice time, and I'd rather you screw up here versus screwing out there in the game. This is elementary stuff probably for many of you, but I've got to say it because it's shocking how many brokerages we have partnered with where this is a massive area of improvement that it's very easy to take for granted. And I just always have to remind myself not to take that for granted, because what's easy to do is also easy not to do. We know these things, but are they happening? And if they're happening, are you holding people accountable to being there and taking advantage of them? Because if they're not showing up, then you need to have a conversation around, are we even a good fit anymore? Possibly. I would also add having a set of toolkits. Now, if you are partnered with Locker Room, that's part of our value to you, is providing a very robust resource library toolkit that they can plug into. But a lot of skill set development can be leveraged in that fact that I don't need to spend my time reinventing a tool. I can take something that already exists and begin immediately implementing and practicing it. That's what I mean as it relates to skill set. Okay. And then for God's sakes, for all that's holy and right in this world, create an environment that's judgment free. Especially if it's practice. I got to know I can screw up and fall flat on my face. I can swing and miss, and my teammates aren't going to laugh at me. Okay. So when it's script practice or listing presentation, workshop, something like that, just know it's equally as important to create a safe zone and a space where people feel it's judgment free. I'll show up as a newbie and not feel like I have to outperform this agent of 17 years who's got it all perfect. Okay. It's not what those are about. All right, moving on. Systems and processes. This is numero 5, because again, follow my logic, guys. Starts and ends with mindset, activities, results, skill set development. Now, because what happens is the real estate roller coaster ride, we got to focus and help them on systems and processes, creating a sustainable business, a predictable business. This is going to test your mindset. Do you believe that's possible? I do. I've seen it. I know it's possible, but a lot of our industry says it's cyclical, it's seasonal. Guys, I believe seasonality is a mindset. Yes, I fully understand that there might be less homes sold in December than there is in May. I get that. However, that is also a lot of top agents' time to get their unfair share and gain market share. So it doesn't have to be your reality. But anyways. Systems and processes. This helps avoid the up and down every 90 days, because when it's dry and there's no food to put on the table, they're work. They're planting, they're harvesting, they're doing all that stuff. And then payday comes 90 days later in the form of 5 people under contract and 3 active listings. What's the first thing that goes bye-bye when that happens? You and I both know it. Let's be real. The very activities that got them that business in the first place, right? So how can we help them with that, guys? It's by creating, again, that office culture and environment of systems and processes. Do you have that resource toolkit or that training, that culture that's going to attract that type of agent into your world? So it can help them with raising their ceiling. So some ideas for you: in-office leverage. Some of you might have transaction coordination companies or a representative in your brokerage. Good. Have that leverage available to them. Marketing and branding. Maybe you have this marketing staff person, whether it's paid or just an extension of your office on an affiliate level, that at least your agents can plug into on their own dime if they want to take advantage of it. And that just brings it all together, the vendor relationship aspect. Some of you, if you're smaller or local boutique and indie brokerages out there, this is a massive thing, not only for recruiting and countless other reasons, but just the simple leverage itself. If you don't have the means to create your own title company or mortgage company, you better have good relationships with people in those spaces that your team can go to, because that is an extension of your team if you think about it. Okay. Technology toolkit. Do you have suggested, or maybe you pay for it on behalf of all your associates when it comes to websites? CRM, marketing and branding, once again, like a downloadable library kind of Canvas situation. These are all things that you need to think about given your business model, with all due respect. I'm just throwing it out there for you to chew on. Systems training. Do you have top agents you can call on for a win-win deal where they're willing to give some of their time to teach some of the newer, lesser experienced agents on what they do to build their systems around it, because oftentimes a system is just a fancy word for a checklist. It's a standard operating procedure, so I don't have to store it up here every time. I actually have something in a checklist form I can follow. That's a system. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It can be on a little just post-it note for all I care. So, and once again, I know it's redundant, but having a robust toolkit, because believe it or not, there are so many things that we can offer and you can create yourself in a toolkit downloadable fashion that's grab and go. Whether it's a template of a listing presentation, that's a system, right? It's a buyer lead sheet. We have those too. You download it, boom, on your way. That's a system that they can get the buyer's information, ask the right questions. So the toolkit piece of this matters just as much. All right, how we doing out there? I'm doing all the...
You're doing great, Jake. We got people in the chat that are commenting in. I just asked there because I know you're going to probably want to be taking some questions as well. So I just asked in the chat, but
Cool.
you've got, you're doing great. You're doing great. Good stuff.
Weird if you guys never talked in this little camera, you know, like it is weird. So no, thank you so much. Let's keep moving. So I'm gonna transition on you now. I told you there's kind of two parts to what I want to get across today. To me, those 5 items are the fundamentals of what you, the office leader, need to be driving each associate towards. Keep their focus, keep your focus on those 5 things. You will win, whatever that means and looks like to you. I really believe that. Anything outside of that can be absolutely labeled a distraction. Okay. Now what I'm going to do quickly is convert to how we can get people into action. We are humans. We're stubborn. We think we know it all these other things that lead us to saying, I know what to do, but why am I not doing it? You guys with me? I know you've got agents out there like that. So let's dive into that briefly. Here they are. 4 most effective techniques to get people into action. I'm going to have to go relatively quick on this, so just forgive me. I'll do my best. Number 1 is pain versus pleasure. Most of you should be somewhat familiar with this concept. 2, logic versus emotion. 3, what does that mean? Here it is. It stands for, I couldn't fit it. It stands for present positive to a present negative to a future negative to a future positive. I'll get into more of that here in a minute. And then the last one is chunking it down. Now, guys, I am no psychologist. I am no anything like that. This is through experience. This is my opinion of what has worked for me. So if it works for you too, take it and use it. So let's dive into the first one, pain versus pleasure. Who knows what that means? Give me a thumbs up or a comment in the chat window because I can't see you, but this should be relatively common language for most of us. If you're a Tony Robbins fan, this is Tony Robbins all over it, man. Go get the book, Awaken the Giant Within, or attend any one of his conventions, and he deep dive into this right here. But let's be honest. Studies show, because somebody way smarter than me said it, but studies show most people are actually running away from pain more so than they're going towards something of pleasure. Interesting. Now, I would add my own little caveat to that. I believe what drives most people's short-term decisions or actions is fear. But I do still believe most people have this vision of their life. They're attracted towards something greater than whatever they currently have. So I think the long term, people still are probably moving towards something of pleasure, a better life, okay? Living through experiences. The problem is what gets in our way is the day-to-day, moment-by-moment decisions, which oftentimes we let fear enter our minds, which is that painful place, right? You will work harder probably to avoid going $50,000 in debt than you would work towards getting $50,000, right? That's kind of a tug of war on the pain versus pleasure thing. And I'm going to tell you, what I have learned. I've learned not to wrestle with agents, leaders, regarding this subject of fear. And here's what I mean by that. I've come kind of a 180 on this subject. There was a day where I would try to convince or inspire somebody out of that fear place, fear of picking up the phone, fear of judgment, fear of hearing the word no, fear of loss, okay? And I would try to convince, and it didn't really work for me. I could inspire them for a hot minute, but then they would go back to their default setting. So then I learned, actually, fear is a good thing. What do I mean by that, Jake? Well, let me tell you. Go back to the Neanderthal, the caveman days, right? When I step out of that cave and I hear something wrestling in the bushes over there, I need to know, what the hell is that thing? Is it there to eat me, or am I going to eat it? But that initial response of fear, like, oh my gosh, think about it, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually a defense mechanism. It's your mind, it's your body, it's your soul protecting you. It's looking out for you. Fear is not a bad thing. Stop thinking that. Fear is a good thing. It's meant to protect you as a mechanism. You with me? But here's the catch. If I can just see it for what it is, saying, this is like the internal dialogue. Hello, fear. I see you over there. I appreciate you trying to protect me. I got this. I'm going to be okay right now. It's that reconditioning and having that internal dialogue, instead of letting fear consume you or your agents. Acknowledge it for what it is and be grateful for it. And let's change the way we think about it, so the thing we think about changes. Come on now. I'm preaching at this point. Okay? Some of you, let alone you helping some of your associates, need to come to grips and acceptance with fear. If we just change the way we look at it, it's not a bad thing. But that conversation internally has to happen for the coping and the overcoming of that fear, to say, no, I got this one. I see you. I appreciate you, but I got it from here. I'll be okay. Right? Now, that being said, kind of talking on both sides, that fear of loss thing, if channeled the right way, can actually be a very powerful motivator. And we're going to get into that with the future positive thing and all that I spoke about earlier. But I do want to highlight that fear of loss, if channeled the correct way, actually can be a good, powerful motivator. We say this all the time, right? Get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's kind of what we're talking about here. Some things you just got to suck it up, buttercup, even when you don't want to do it, and just know that when I'm uncomfortable with something, I'm growing. Guys, I've done so many of these videos, and I still this morning, I still get nervous before getting on here and talking to you guys. I don't know, maybe it's a good, nervous, excited energy or whatever, but it's still somewhat uncomfortable for me. And I just say, you know what, this is a growth moment for me, and I'm going to be better off because of this. Let's go. But we got to make sure ourselves and our agents, because a lot of this is you look in the mirror. I hope you guys see that in my message today is, how are you showing up? I look in the mirror, role modeling this behavior for yourselves, so your associates take notice of that too. There's nothing better than a leader who can humble themselves before the group, saying, hey, I'm just like you, right? I've got my own junk too. That's pretty cool this day and age, instead of this fake it till you make it BS. So don't be afraid to push on them pain points, though. Some of you are avoiding those conversations because you want to be liked so much, you want to be popular. You are not doing them or yourself a favor by doing that. Push on the pain points when appropriate, in the right context, because you're actually helping somebody out when you're doing that. Second one is logic versus emotion. Now this can be equally effective, very similar in a lot of ways to the pain versus pleasure one. But just to hit on this real quick, there's a saying or a quote out there that says, logic makes people think, but emotion makes people act. Okay, now there's a lot of truth to that. But when I hear that, I feel like it positions one as if it's better than the other, and I fundamentally disagree with that. I think both, if used the correct way, can get people to act. So I just want to throw that out there, because when it says logic makes people think, but emotion makes people act, I think that's very one-sided, because I have used logic to get people to act as many times as I've used the emotional side. But we have to understand the difference of them. So it's as simple as this, guys. Watch your language, watch your questions. Are you asking, how does that make you feel? That's an emotional thing, right? Or if I say something like, does that make sense, like I've done intentionally a couple of times today, I'm tapping into your logical part of your brain. Does that make sense? I'm getting you to think about it. So the way we can use this, and there's a whole slew of scripts and templated questions and things that we have available for you guys. The bottom line is, if I have an associate or somebody I'm interacting with who's exhibiting a unhealthy, keyword unhealthy, level of logic or unhealthy level of emotion, my job is to help them get on the other side. Play ping pong, okay? I know if somebody's in an unhealthy state of logic because they have analysis paralysis. They've got to know it all before they're willing to put themselves out there and fail. They got to think about it. Those are all the signs, in which case I can use an emotion to get them to the other side. Emotion is pretty obvious. They're tears, they're upset, they're just angry, or whatever the feeling could be that's actually doing them a disservice. I've got to get them calm and logical, right? Which is where I might ask different questions that tap into that part of their brain. Make sense? See what I did there? So what might I use? What are some tools at my disposal? For the emotional side, if somebody's in an unhealthy state of logic and I need to get them into emotion to do something, I can go back to the big why, assuming I've done that exercise with them. Hey, what? Let's go back to that. When you got your license 6 months ago and they handed that piece of paper to you saying that you passed, what did that feel like? What went on in your mind? What were your hopes and dreams that you intended to accomplish by getting it started in a career in real estate? Take me back to that time. You guys see what I just did there? I literally put them back into a distinct state of emotion, assuming they were pretty excited at that time. Or taking them back to that big why exercise that maybe we did together. In the Locker Room's Agent Action Plan workbook, we actually make them write letters to their family. One is a success letter, and the second one is an apology letter. And I can't tell you how many times when I've had an agent come in, or whatever, I busted that sucker out and I said, read this apology letter out loud to me. Here's what mine could sound like. I have 2 baby girls. Dear Ava and Adeline, Daddy is so sorry he was selfish and did not show up every day like he committed to doing to lead generate and provide a life for you. I am so sorry we can no longer go on that Disney cruise. Love always, Daddy. I mean, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like if I ask an associate to read back the words that they wrote on a piece of paper like that, and now you have problems with motivation and inspiration, there's something totally wrong. So anyways, I just want to throw that out there. They have to connect with something of clarity and emotional importance to them if they're in an unhealthy state of logic. They're overanalyzing it. Just get out there and do, right? On the flip side, with the logic one, be practical, keep simplicity in mind. You got to be very matter of fact. This is where the candor comes in. And sometimes numbers and facts are exactly what needs to be said because they're making a bigger deal and we got to interrogate the reality of what's really going on. There's no such thing as a bad day. You had a bad 5 minutes. And sometimes when they're just going on their rant, you can stop them and say, is that really true? Or is that just all this noise that you got to get out? I'm happy to be your counselor for the day, but let's get clear. So anyway, I know I gotta keep moving here. I'm running short on time. This is my favorite one, guys, and this one takes practice. We won't get into it in great detail right now, but present positives. To summarize it, it's right here on your screen. Most people, if I'm trying to recruit them, let's use Eric's thing of recruiting. They're going to say, I'm happy where I'm at. I love my broker. I don't want to switch companies, whatever the heck it is. They're showing a level of defensiveness and complacency, possibly. They're happy where they're at. On the surface level, that is, because you and I both know there's probably more to the story than that. So what I need to do is assume every person I meet is in a state of present positive. They're happy where they're at, and I got to meet them right there toe-to-toe at the line. Now, through a series of questions and things that we train on, I now get to show them a present negative. Maybe it's not so good that you lead us on to all believe, right? Where's your current gap? One of my favorite questions to enter into this dialogue is a scaling question. Hey, just curious, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being amazing, where would you rank your current business right now? Most people, guys, are going to say like a 7. Cool. What would it take then to get from a 7 to an 8, 9, or maybe even a 10? What's currently missing? What's that gap? Whatever they say, you zone in on that because that is their area of pain, okay? And that is now your opportunity to show them how you can solve or cure that pain. But we got to first make them see you're not so perfect and great after all. And you've got some blind spots and some troubling gaps that, if not left, if not fixed, could cause some serious issues in the future, which takes us to the next one. And this is all through questions, guys, not me telling them something's wrong. You got to do this the right way with the proper questions. This one between 2 and 3, present negative and future negative, this is where it is at. This is either going to make you or break you if you try this. I need to let it simmer in that crock pot at phase 2 and 3 as long as I can, because that's where they're feeling emotion. Okay? Don't come to the rescue. Don't diagnose it. Say, oh, we got a tool for that. Now's not the time to coach them. Let them live in that space. The future negative then is what's at stake. If we're still sitting here at this Starbucks in 6 months from now and nothing has changed, what's at stake? What does it cost by you not taking action? Who else suffers if you're not willing to make this change? Because now you've acknowledged it. There's something that could be improved. And if you don't change it, do your kids remember your name in 6 months because you're never at home? Are you still married because your spouse never sees you and they're already telling you, hey, there's some problems here in our marriage? This is where it gets really real. And you can future pace that. And then you get to swoop in as the hero in the end. Once they've felt that and they've seen that vision of the future, you can say that doesn't have to be it. This is where you get to paint the reality. Why? Because you're a human being, and human beings were given the freedom of free will is the word I'm looking for. You have the power of choice. You can make a decision, right? So by partnering together with us or joining our company or whatever your thing is, here's how we can create that future 6 months from now that you're proud of, not remorseful over. This is a powerful one, you guys. And then finally, chunking it down. I got 3 minutes. I told you we'd take a break, and if not, that's all right. You guys go potty on your own.
No, we'll take a break, Jake, because we've got plenty of time.
Okay. All right. We'll take a quick break then. Okay. So chunking it down. Yeah. Chunking it down. We've talked about this already, guys. So some of these do intermix and stuff, but it's taking a big goal that seems so far away. They can't even wrap their brains around it, but it sounds good coming out of their mouths. Like, I want to earn 6 figures my first year in real estate. Cool. Dude, I'll get behind any goal. I'm not going to poo-poo on that. But we got to create a plan. And I need to test your commitment towards that goal, because once you've set the goal and you've thought big, now it's time to think consistent, and it's time to think small on that day-to-day level. It's habits. So there's that philosophy out there. You've probably heard it. We overestimate what we can do in 1 year, and yet we tend to underestimate what we can do in 5. And there's a smart leader in real estate who once said, wherever you are today, right here, right now, if all of you can hear my voice, you are no more than 5 years away from being wherever you want to be in this world. 100% truth behind that. Okay? So there you have it. What are the leading indicators? We got to chunk it down. I could give you story after story. Again, here's one. I'll give you 2 quick ones, actually. In a normal average sales price market, if an agent says, hey, I want to earn 6 figures, having done the math, God knows how many times, here's how I know to chunk it down. One of 2 ways, for example. Number 1, all right, great. If I told you that all you had to do to net 6 figures in your first year of real estate is go on 1 qualified appointment a week, every week in your first year, would you do it? Well, yeah. Guys, do the math like I've done it. That's about right. All they got to do is go on 1 qualified appointment a week consistently, keyword, for the year. So my question to them, if I'm their coach, is going to be, from Monday morning to Sunday evening when your head hits the pillow, did you or did you not go on 1 appointment? Yes or no? Well, no, insert rambled excuses. My business cards, my signs, all this other crap that doesn't matter whether you first and foremost went on that appointment or not. Another way, guys, from a database perspective, is expecting a 5% return on your database. The math is on our side. If you have an agent who wants to net 6 figures, and let's say they got to close 24 units to do that, it's about right. I'm talking net 6 figures. Then it's reverse engineering the math. It's chunking it down like I'm talking about. if I'm going to expect a 5% return on my database, take 24 units divided by 0.05, and that gives you a database of 480 people. Grow your database to 480 people, market to them consistently and effectively through drip campaigns and all the other stuff, and the math is on your side to produce 24 deals year over year over year. That's chunking it down. Taking something so big and making it small and tangible to them. Time on task over time. I was actually earned the name Tot Tot in my first office where I was a coach because I didn't know it said time on task over time a lot. So an agent called me Tot Tot back then. But there's that, and with that, hey, look at there. I'm 1 minute late, but I hope you guys got there with me. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, Kit, so you and I are back on the screen. So,
yeah.
So everybody, I haven't been able to see the chat window. I hope you got some value out of that. And Kit, I'll let you lead us on here. You want to take 5 minutes if people need to get up and stretch and go to the bathroom?
Absolutely. Maybe we can take 10. I mean, if someone wants to grab a bite to eat or something. So why don't we resume at 12, 11?
10 just do 10 after.
10 after. Perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
You guys go, if you need to go,
Yep.
Get up, stretch, return a phone call, come back because Kit's going to continue with us about retention. And then Hank Avink, you don't want to miss the last one with profitability. Hank is going to talk to us about that. And we got a really awesome afternoon for you here. So we'll come back in about 10 minutes after.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right. We are back from our quick little break. If all of you are hopefully still sticking around with us, and I believe you are, looks like we got a good audience still. So that being said, guys, we're moving in chronological order here because now that we've talked about how to grow, how to get those people that we've recruited into production, now it's one thing to get them to stay, right? So this is one of those really, really important topics, especially in a time and day and age with a lot of value out there, a lot of different models. We want to get them retained now that you've put all the work into this point. So with me now, obviously she's been with us all day, is Kit. Kit has been in the real estate industry for, check it out, I'm not dating her, over 33 years. So she has performed nearly every role that exists in the business. She owned and operated her own brokerage in the 1980s in Newport, Rhode Island. And from there, Kit moved to Minnesota in the early 90s to pursue leadership, teaching, coaching roles with NRT Coldwell Banker Burnett. In 2014, she moved to the Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina area and sold new construction for a few years. And that's, of course, like many of us, she realized she wanted to get back in the real estate coaching world. So now I am proud to say Kit is the VP of our Locker Room Business Development Division. She serves as a brokerage consultant, coaches both individual and agents on the team. I'm sorry, individual agents and teams. Kit is a graduate of the Institute of Professional Excellence in Coaching. That's IPEC for those of you fellow coaches out there. And she's a master practitioner in energy leadership. I could definitely vouch for this. Her style is one of care and candor. She's got a great energy, a great passion. It's very contagious. Kit is, of course, married to John for 33 years now. They've got 2 beautiful daughters, 3 grandchildren, 4 dogs, and even 2 horses. Her hobbies include barrel racing, riding her horses in the mountains, golf, and travel. So Kit, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank you so much for pouring into us today.
Oh, thank you, Jake. Thank you very much for the introduction. And yeah, that does date me when you say 33 years. It's actually 34 years now, but yeah, that's a long time to be in the industry. And what I can tell you is here's what hasn't changed in 34 years. We still have to hire them. We still have to take care of them and make sure they're profitable. We still have to make sure our companies are profitable. And even with all the technology and all the other things that have come into our industry, it still comes to the same 4 things. And so over the years, consulting with offices, we look at those areas that the locker room is diving into. And again, it still comes down to that. So my topic today, through years and years of getting kicked in the gut, as a broker owner and as a leader for lots of large offices through the Coldwell Banker NRT system, I've learned lots of lessons and wisdom to share with you with regards to retention today. So what I'd like you to do is something a little bit different. If you guys would get a pen and paper, I'm going to go over 10 kind of 10 thoughts or 10 suggestions. They're not all in order other than the first one. And have you rate your brokerage, because you can listen to this webinar today, but if you on a scale of 1 to 10 say, you know, I've got that, I've nailed it, that's where I am, and feel good about that. If there's an area that we're talking about that you're like, you know, I suck at that, I mean, being real here, I need some help in that, we're here to serve you. And I know I'd be happy to, and any of the other coaches that are on this call, or Jake, you know, or in your region, will be happy to give you a strategy session on serving you in that particular area. So give yourself some ratings on that. And additionally, that's going to give you a place where to start. So if you need to make changes in your organization or rethink things in your organization based on our discussion today, it's going to come glaringly like, I need to do this. And again, we're happy to be here to serve you in any way we possibly can. So that's my intention today for you, is to give yourself a little grading system and have you examine your business. And we're going to go over 10 items today. The first, and you have heard it from the very minute Eric opened his mouth to Jake having a conversation about it. The first thing one must have in your office, your brokerage, or if you're managing a large team, is a crystal clear vision. One must have a vision, a culture, and a community for your people. So having that, people want to know where you're going. They want to know what the company's about. They want to be on a winning team, as Jake said, with regards to you know, illustrating a sports team. People want to be on a winning team. They want to be proud of where the company is going. And we as leaders must absolutely clearly communicate that vision and mission. And the question I have for you is, A, do you have one? And B, are you clearly communicating that? If you have a physical office, do you have posters up that speak to this? When you have stand-up meetings with your office staff, and we'll talk about office staff, is that where you start, so that everything you do is clear on where your bus is going and gives your community the energy to move that bus forward? So we've talked that there are business books out there. I'm a big proponent of a book that was written by Gino Wickman by the name of Traction. And that's a really good book that'll give you some step-by-steps, good exercises on how to actually come up with a vision and mission statements, because sometimes that can be kind of woo-woo-ish, but it's very specific on where you want to go. And I'm Jack Welch, if you guys know who he is, I might be dating myself there. He's the former CEO of General Electric. And he's been considered one of the most prominent leaders in the business industry for years. And in multiple interviews with him, Jack would say, good business leaders create a vision, articulate the vision, and passionately own the vision, and relentlessly drive it to completion. After years and years and years of being the CEO of General Electric, when he stepped down and they said, Jack, was there one area you think you could have improved on? And you know what it was? I didn't clearly communicate the vision well enough. And we're talking about a man that every fiber of that organization, he would articulate the vision. And he still, at the end of his tenure, felt like he did not do a good enough job articulating and illustrating the vision and the culture of the community he created. And people are like, what, really? You, Jack Welch, that's known for that? So again, I'm gonna ask you to kind of take a look at your business, and are you communicating that? There's a company that I coach that their terminology, their vision and mission is 2 words. So it doesn't have to be that crazy long thing. And their 2 words are be generous. Everywhere in their office, everything they do is about be generous. Everyone wears t-shirts that says be generous. And people go out to the community, they say, what does that mean? And the response from those agents, the 100 agents, is what do you need? It's really cool. There are billboards. Every conversation is about be generous. Just interesting. So food for thought and something for you to ask yourself. The second, and again, I know Eric really talked about this, and so did Jake. Do you have the right team on your bus? And I'm just specifically talking about agents. Is your brokerage full, or your team full of your ideal agents? One of the exercises, as from a coaching perspective, when I sit down with brokers, is to really go through and identify the characteristics that you want of the people on your team. Do you want them to be learning based? Do you want them to be enthusiastic? Are they collaborative in nature? Are they hungry? Are they honest with integrity? Are they coachable? Are they servant leaders? Does the customer come first, or are they ego driven and they don't really care about their customer? They're transactional, as Jake had mentioned from a brokerage standpoint, but are they transactional? So identify, who do you want your ideal agents to be? Because here's the deal, guys. When you start identifying and you have vision for that, it starts to appear. So once you put that out there and your reticular activating system starts going, you're going to start seeing those ideal agents show up in your world, and therefore you can have conversations if you want to recruit them, and you can evaluate if you have the right people on your bus. So what does this have to do with retention? Well, if you don't have the right people on your bus, they're going to leave you. They're going to either leave you for money, they're going to leave you for a million of other reasons, but if they're not your ideal agents, then you're going to have some turmoil in your organization. So do you need to reevaluate your roster? Take your ideal agent that you want to have, that you want to grow this vision with, and evaluate, do you have the right people there? Do we need to get rid of some people who are on that? We've heard the statement before, one bad apple can ruin the bus. And we all know that, because negative Nellies are energy vampires. They will suck the life out of an organization. And good agents will leave. The people ideal people you want will leave. And I guess this is where the care and candor comes in, because I care enough to say this to you, that the people that you want, that you most likely want, will leave if you have negative Nellies on your bus. They will. Because they're the ones, as Eric had said, that the minute something goes wrong, the technology isn't working, the water cooler, I don't have Starbucks in my office, or whatever it is that they're bringing negative energy to, other people who have positive energy will move away from them. So really take a look at your organization and making sure you have the right agents on your bus. So that is number 2. So please give yourself an eval there. And that's not easy to do. I mean, as myself personally, as I said, I come to you for wisdom. There are offices that they kind of would bring me in offices that needed to be helped and brought back up, that there are some issues in them. And the first thing we do is we'd have to, as a young leader, I was afraid to get people off the bus because my job was to grow the business. And now I'm throwing people off the bus. But when I found out that when I got the wrong people off the bus, everybody else became more productive, and all ships sailed. But it was a hard lesson to learn, because I'm like, I like that person. I don't want to hurt their feelings. Well, if you're going to be a broker owner and you're going to be a manager and you're going to create a culture of productivity that we talked about, and kind of like what Eric said, you can't be the person that everybody likes. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. And the third thing to have you evaluate with your business is, do you have the right support staff? I loved when Eric was so open to say, it took me him years to figure that out. Are your processes easy? Agents get goofy about processes that aren't easy. Is it easy to get paid in your organization? Is it easy to submit documents? Is your onboarding complete? And is the process simple? Most agents are not good at admin. And so if you have cogs in there that really make that hard for them to do business, they get frustrated. So do you offer processes that solve a pain point for the agents? Example Jake had used earlier was a transaction coordinator. If you're growing a profitable, productive office, a lot of agents get hung up with getting cogged down with regards to the paperwork and that kind of stuff. Do you have easy processes to help your agents with pain points? So listen to your agents to see if there are, if there are things they're complaining about, and is that a pain point that you need to address within your processes? Your support staff is so critical. They can make or break you. And I have learned that, you guys, from my own experiences. I remember having a front desk staff person who was very efficient, but her communication with people was very short. And that, although her efficiency was great, the way she communicated made people not feel great, even though she was efficient. And so that caused people to leave one of the offices I had because of that. And if I had nipped it in the bud after maybe 2 or 3 people had complained, I wouldn't have had to work so much harder at kind of rebuilding that environment, because she was not representing what I was speaking about. And what I was speaking about is we show up with an attitude of problem solving. Yes, I can do that. Let me figure it out, and I will make this work for you to the best of my ability. Now, can't do everything for everybody, but we have to have, as we talked about, standards. And my standard in my organization was, yes, I'll figure out how to make that happen for you. Again, within reason, coming from an administrative standpoint. So do your people, the people that are there to help you represent your brand and your vision and your culture, are they up to what you expect? Are they people who show up enthusiastically with a yes, I can do attitude? Or do they roll their eyes at the agent that says, can you help me with this? Super, super important to retention. Because people want to be surrounded with people who will help and serve them and help them grow. So making sure that your staff is your support staff and your support leadership, whatever you call them, are the right people to be on your bus. So that's a huge part of keeping people in your company. The fourth is, how well do you know your people? How deep do you go with your people? Do you have a culture of coaching? My personal experience over the years, like 34 years in the business, my mom's a shrink, my dad's an Episcopal priest, or was. I had coaching was natural for me because that's the environment I grew up in, and learned some additional coaching skills. And that's what the leadership style that I was very blessed to be able to have a good retained environment, because it came from a place of knowing what your people want in life. Tools we use in the locker room would be an example of the wheel of life. Knowing what your people want and what does it mean to them. Eric referred to it as the emotional connection, and Jake did as well. But if you really understand what their success means, how it'll change their life, and you understand that, and you walk hand in hand with them as a partner with them, and you're not going to let them off the hook because you really get that, they stay with you. You're more likely to have them stay with you. And I know from some of the leaders on here maybe have, anywhere from 20 people in their organization and then we have Eric on the extreme with 500 in his organization. And being able to chunk that down and showing up for those agents and creating a system and structure that creates that collaboration, and utilizing your staff and utilizing other systems, and we'll talk about that in a second, to make sure that you're having those conversations, and making sure that you understand where they want to go. That's the heartbeat of a great real estate company, is really knowing what your people want and what it means to them, what the impact is to them, and how you show up to serve them. And if you can nail that piece of it, you'll be miles ahead of the competition, and you'll be miles ahead at keeping people close to you, because people, again, really, they'll stay with you if they really know you care. not just care about their numbers and, you know, how many listings did they go on, but what is the money that they're going to earn? How is that going to change their lives? What impact will that make for them, for their future, and what they want to do for their children and their community? So how strong is your, you know, giving yourself a rating, how strong is your coaching within the agents that you're serving? And again, we're happy to help give you some tools and skills and things that you can do to implement that immediately. The fifth is, what is your system, your systemized care program? To be able to take care of people on a consistent basis, one has to have a system. So an example of a system that we would put in place in an office would be 4 quarterly just because calls. Now, if you have an organization of 350 agents, let me chunk this down to you how reasonable it can be. So that's 1,400 calls a year. Divided by 12 months of the year is 116 calls per month. If we worked 20 working days per month, that's 5.8 agent calls per day, just because you care calls. That will give you huge, again, I say it, you know, if you're making those connections, you have a coaching culture, you're making those calls, and you're scheduling one-on-ones with them, potentially on a quarterly basis, and it doesn't always have to be you. If you've got staff, you might have coaches in your office, you might have some other type of leadership staffs that you can break those down, but you've got the just because calls, and you've got quarterly assessments in their business. If you're on top of where they are, where they're going, and what it means to them, again, they will stay with you. This is retention. There are 2 types of agents I have found over the number of years and the thousands of agents that I've coached and led. They're the agents that are the show me the money agents, you know, and the recognize me agents. And so we have to be able to work with both. We have to make sure that we, you know, have competitive, you know, commission structures so that we keep people, that we're not completely out of place to the marketplace, that we're fair in the marketplace, and they're earning a good living. And they want you to coach them on how to earn a really good living so that they can do what they want in their life. And again, we have to have recognition programs for the people who love to go across the stage and recognize me awards. Having recognize me awards for things that can be like the Be Generous company. They have every month or every week, they have a shout out of who was the most generous that week, whatever that was. And then every month they have a Be Generous award. So coming up with different ways to recognize them, you know, whether it's the plaques for performance and or something that maybe, you know, the culture is that they're not going to be the top performer because that's not who they're going to be, but recognizing them for the efforts and what they put into the company. So making sure that you have something in place for both of those. And again, Eric mentioned it earlier, and I think Jake did as well, but making sure you have a system for birthday card, what I call stuff happens gifts. You've got people who get married, you have people who have babies, you have people that you know, have certain life changes, and how are you as a broker showing up to support them in their personal lives, and making sure you have a system for that. And making sure that your staff you guys can come up with those systems together and how you implement them. Making sure that you guys as a leadership team have your weekly and daily stand-up so that you are in touch with what happens in your brokerage daily. And what do I mean by stand-up meeting? I mean that every day between whatever time you decide, whether it's 8 to 8:15, that you say, okay, what do we need to know about who today? Oh, Johnny Smith's grandmother passed away. Okay, what's our system for that? We need flowers sent out. We need a card done. We need, and you have basically a checklist of what happens when stuff comes up so that you're there on an emotional basis for them. And again, maybe it's a telephone call. And it doesn't always have to come from you as the broker owner. Because when you start getting into 350, 400 agents, that starts to get real unwheeling. But if you can make them on the smaller level, that will be super impactful for them. The other things that I have found that the offices that execute this one system at a high level have an incredible retention percentage. And that is client events for the agents. So let me tell you what that looks like. An example would be, let's say in October, you decide you're going to hold a pumpkin patch. So maybe it's at your office, and each of the agents would send out invitations, and you create a system for them. So they would send out an invitation on this date, a phone call on this date, have a call night surrounding it, provide pizza. Then the next email letter, the email that would go out to those clients. So it's a kind of 5 or 6 step process that you're actually, from the brokerage standpoint, organizing for the agents to invite their clients. Now, you as the brokerage don't have to pay for that. The agents will pay, but what you've done is you've leveraged the brokerage ability to help them keep in touch with their clients. We find, we all know this, that one of the struggles our agents have is maintaining consistent contact with the people they've served, or the people in their pipeline, their sphere of influence. Every time, coaches, get real. Every time you sit down, you say, okay, how many touches have you had with your database of 200? And they look at you with, deer in the headlights. Oh yeah, I send a quarterly email that the company provides for me. Broker owners, this is the magic sauce, or what's that term? Whatever, magic sauce, secret sauce. So if you did those 4 times a year, Toys for Trees, a company that, one of the companies that I worked for, we did Toys for Trees, and that would be, again, same type thing. We created the invitations, we created the Eventbrite, we created, as a staff, agents all paid for that, and they would invite their clients in to bring a toy into the office, and they would get either a tree or a wreath to take home, and it was always done in the first week of December. And agents, if you do that, you can do a baseball tickets, you can do movie nights, the things that you could do are endless. But here's what happens. Now you've created a system that is helping them grow their business, almost forcing contacts for them to have contacts with their clients and sphere of influence, which, guess what? Creates productivity. Because we all know if you make contacts and you have conversations, you will have productivity. If you're helping them and that's systemic in their business, it's very hard for an agent to walk away from that. And hopefully I can get an amen in the chat for that. So making sure that you have a care system for your agents, so that sticky glue is there.
You got a few amens, Kit. Just one.
All right. I was looking for a few amens. Okay, number 6, care system. Number 6, again, I think all these points are super important, but don't forget to grade yourself on how you're doing on that systemized care program. 6 is, do you make the lives of your agents bigger? Do you bring people into their lives to help them grow? So an example, again, is an office that I led. We would have a business leader series. So that would be, and we did it every month, and I think that was a little overkill. You could do it every other month. We had a business leader that would come in and help and just do things like we're doing today, helping and serving you and giving you hopefully some things to think about for your organization. So whether or not you brought in somebody, a financial advisor, and they kind of went over how do you structure, building wealth, having investors, somebody who maybe has a portfolio of 450 units, just tell their story. So who are you giving these people access to help them grow? And I put what's called the Peters in there because it's just jar my memory, is there are people who are experts in the marketplace, and maybe they're not even with your company, maybe they're somewhere else. They could come in that are the expert in that particular thing, and exposing them to those folks. Because as we all know, we're the average of the 5 people that we hang around with, we become. So how are you helping people grow both personally and professionally? And are you bringing those people into the organization to give your people exposure to them, to help push them to the next level? So kind of giving yourself a little grading on that. 7 is, again, another tool to implement and provide that stickiness within the organization, and that is to implement a board of directors. And that necessarily is not the top, it's not just a conglomeration of the top producers. It is a group of people that represent different communities within the office itself. Whether you have people that are some of the top producers because they do have good ideas, but maybe you've got people that are in the middle production. Maybe you have people who are really good at social things, but implementing a board of directors, and they can be your grassroots to the organization so that you can kind of hear what's going on. Agents, well, all people want to either, they want to be heard and they want the respect to be heard. So kind of creating this within your organization so that they can help guide you, and maybe, once a month or quarterly even, it doesn't have to be specifically that tight, but in terms of time frame, but having them come in and say, here's our vision, where do you see us going next? Having them help come around you and lead you to the next step. Because now they're bought into not only the vision of the culture, but they're also bought into, you're giving them a place to be heard and to help grow the organization. And when people feel a part of the organization, they're more apt to stay with the organization. They're more apt to become involved. And again, we don't want to create a ton of committees where people are, over-committed to death, but we want to provide an environment where people can be heard, they can have their input, put in together, and then there's action that's taken on that. And when their action has been taken on that, then again, they feel invested in the organization. And that's truly important for people to stay, because they want to be part, again, of that, where people are going, and they want to be heard, and they want to be part of change if change needs to take place. See, Jake, now I'm rolling through. We're going to have extra time, so we'll take questions and answers for everybody. So again, please give yourself a ranking on that as to, do I have a board of directors, and how, have I implemented that to the office so that the agents have some say in what happens. The 8th tool for retention is agent appreciation. And again, not just recognition. Recognition is one thing, but how are you appreciating the people that are on your team? Do you have fun picnic trips? Do you take them on a canoe trip? What do you do? How, from the company, do you contribute to them, to each other as a whole, creating a team environment to have fun? What are you doing to appreciate them? Like we do client appreciations, but how are we doing them to appreciate them as being part of your team? We sometimes do need to take a time out to do some fun things together. And again, that's part of that board of directors. They can come on in and help support you with regards to, here's some of the things we want to do. We want to go and have a family picnic. We want to go to the beach. We want to, just doing something together. And I know in the world of COVID, it's a little bit different, but we still can create those fun environments for our people to get together. People want to be part of, again, a winning team. They want to have that collaboration. And do you have that collaboration? Is that an expectation people have in your organization? And you demonstrating that collaboration is also part of the appreciation, for sure. 9, the 9th part to keep people on your team as part of the retention plan is to have community service. Again, people want to contribute and give back, but they don't always have the time. You've got some folks that really are very involved in churches and do a lot of community service, but as an office whole, how are you reaching out to your communities? Whether it's local charities, whether it's, it could be, feed your starving children. It can be, what is it that you are doing to show up in the community to support them? And agents want to be part of that. And again, a lot of times they don't have time to organize. They're very busy, productive agents are super, super busy in their lives, and they might have time to organize that. So do you take, whether it's once a year, twice a year, or 4 times a year, what is it that you do to come out into the community to help and serve them? one of the most powerful things that in one of the offices that I managed is we had several agents who had children that lived in community homes that had Down syndrome. And so we went out and found additional homes, and we went to those particular homes and just did, some people just went and sat with their young adults, played cards with them. Some people went out and did yard work and cleaned up the homes that they lived in. And that had miles and miles and miles of what came back to us, because they went out and told their fellow other agents in the marketplace, which again brought from a recruiting standpoint. And those agents that were in our office that had those children, what that spoke to them about how much we cared was huge. So looking at going into the office and saying, okay, who in our office, what is the makeup there, and what type of community involvement can we do for you? And most of us have all been touched by something, whether it's been a cancerous situation or, I mean, there's just so much in life. And right now, obviously, there's even more things coming to light. There are more needs that are out there. And what is your office doing, either through your agents, with your agents, out into the communities? So that's again a huge way to keep people that stickiness, that they want to be part of something with you. And the 10th way, and again, please rank yourself on where you are in that. And the 10th kind of strategy for retention is treating agents like they're your best clients. Every touch point, everything you do within your organization, are you dedicated to making it the first class experience? Looking at all the components of your office, whether it's your office space, again, your staff, the conversations that you have, the places where they bring their clients when they can bring their clients back to the offices. Are you treating them as if you did when you were an agent? And making sure that they are getting a world-class experience from you? Are you serving them like with the Nordstrom's experience? And if you can do that, and again, a lot of this does not have to fall on your shoulders to make it up. It'll come from your board of directors. If you have a board of directors and you say, how can we take this experience from an 8 to a 10? What would that look like, guys? From an office standpoint, they'll tell you what they want. And you deliver it through your staff, leverage the people that you need to. So as a broker owner, I know I would get into this mindset sometimes of, my gosh, this is putting more and more on my shoulders. No, it would be, how do I leverage the people around me to do what it is that we want to accomplish? How do we, have world-class service for our folks? And again, using the people and the staff that you have and other agents, using the other agents in your office. They will tell you what they want. So in my experience of 34 years, and I'll tell you a little story on why one of the things that motivated me to really dive into retention was, I was a young broker owner, and I had an agent who was a top performer, very, very well respected and liked in my office. And I thought he and I were the best of chums. And our families were good friends, and we did things together. And I got the call, hey Kit, I'll be by the office. Do you have a minute? Now, if you guys have been a broker owner manager for more than a year, you've had that call, and instantly, shit. Because you know what's coming. They've already made the decision. They've probably packed their bags and they're gone. And when I lost that agent, I still to this day say that other company bought him. They paid him more money, because I want to deflect it. And I said to myself, I'm going to do everything I personally can as a leader and with my team to create a system that's duplicatable, predictable. It happens, and it's not going to let my people down, so that I would not have that phone call again. I could only control my environment to a certain degree. Yes, you still lose people to, they retire, or they, you know, somebody else has got the newest thing. There's grass is always greener. You're going to get some of that. But I will tell you that if you can put these 10 ideas into place and just start with the one that you think would impact your organization the most, put that into place, you're far greater to build a solid team that'll stay with you for the long term, provided you have the right people on the bus. So very fortunately, one of the things that as a consultant we do is we go in and we look at what is that client care? What are these 10 things? Do you have these implemented? How are you what we call shutting your back door? And we work on fixing those so that we can make sure that you've got people who are staying with you for the long term. There's nothing better when you can say I've had a 20-year relationship with my agents. There really isn't, because and you've impacted their lives in a meaningful way, and you've understood what that meant to them. It's the greatest joy from a leadership perspective when people say, the reason I stayed with Kit is because she changed my life. Not only from the personal side of it, the professional side of it, but built-in systems to help that happen so that things don't fall through the cracks. So again, you're going to face, you are going to face some challenges with once you get them on board. It's always a challenge, and there's some things you cannot control. But if you do have those 10 systems in place, I can guarantee your retention rate will be pretty darn high. So Jake, that's what I've got. What can I do? Any questions, comments, concerns, snide remarks?
Yeah, well, I think I've handled a lot of the comments, questions, and things like that in the chat. So good job. But something I just want to comment on. Nobody really prepares us for this. I think a lot of times as leaders, we go into it because of numbers and business is so good. We just need kind of help and leverage and all that. This is a topic I believe that there's not enough material or training around, because everything you're saying with the emphasis being so relationship driven, and I agree, like we're not talking about this stuff enough. This isn't in every leadership book that you see. It's all about growth and productivity. This is a forgotten subject matter, I think. So, but it's equally as important, if not even in many ways more important. But I love the approach. Everything, guys, you've heard today, I hope you see the common denominator being it's relationship driven, and not just growth for growth's sakes. As much as we want to compare ourselves to the neighbors or the big box franchises, they're all welcome here. But I just want you to focus on what is your mission, what is your vision, what is your values and belief systems, and make sure you stay aligned with that and attract people who believe what you believe.
Yeah. And Jake, in every office, I consulted and had a big box, we call them big box, but brands, and every single office has a different culture based on the leadership. It really, really does. And so you have, whether you're in a larger franchise, yes, that they have some things that they talk about, but how do you present yourself with that, and how do you lead?
Right.
And yeah,
no, I agree. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat window. Otherwise, I believe Hank just got on here, so I'm going to promote him to a panelist, and we can get started there earlier as well. But I'll give it a second. And Kit, if there's any other last minute thoughts you have, feel free.
Absolutely. Was this information helpful to you? I guess that's one of the things. Was just want to see if that was helpful.
Yeah, I believe it better be, because it is. It is vital, extremely helpful. We're getting there. Great work, Kit. So yeah, you're getting all sorts of kudos and love. Well,
I just want to make sure that I know you kind of went quickly. That's my personality is kind of, I don't have as many words as you do, Jake.
Oh, I don't want you to be, Kit. You did a great job. You did a great job.
So, yeah.
Well, guys, so we've got.
I literally was putting pants on.
I just saw that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well,
I got the time wrong. I was swimming with my kids.
Well, I'm glad I texted you, I guess, then. So, Kit, thank you so much. Great job. Feel free to hang out with me if you'd like to hear with Hank. But guys, we're gonna bring this whole shebang home today for you. Hank is somebody that many of you probably know. If you don't, you need to know him, and you will after today. If there's somebody who can make something like math and numbers sexy and interesting, It's this guy. I'm pointing right here because we are here to talk to you about profitability, especially if you're, like you said, a broker owner, you're a team lead, you're in some sort of leadership position. Profitability has to matter. It is not an ugly word. And Hank is the founder of the National Coaching League. He is what I would in many ways consider, whether he'll ever admit it or not, my coach, my mentor, somebody that's changed my life forever. And I just have a deep respect and a love and appreciation for this man. And when we were putting this together for all of you, and we had, who we get to talk about profitability, first person unequivocally that came to mind is right here. So Hank, thank you so much for being here. And I'll let you take it away. And by the way, guys, just for expectation setting, this will be a little different than the others because we've had horrible PowerPoints and stuff like that. That's not how this guy rolls, unless you're going to surprise me today. So this will be more interview style, but he's going to take it away, and I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for the kind words. And yeah, so there's a new term that I've been playing with, and it's called net life income. And I think so many people, their answer is more. And so I'm gonna ask everybody to answer some questions. And don't worry, we're not gonna call on you yet. Could you produce your P&L up to date through June within 10 minutes? And if you can't, I'm gonna say grow up. Simple as that. I mean, imagine a football team calling plays based on numbers from a year ago. Like that's moronic. And if you don't know your numbers, you don't know when to, play a call where you're on the goal line, or if you need to do a Hail Mary. And so 10 years ago, Jake, as you know, my son had open heart surgery. And I thought what I had was a business and I had a job. And if I stopped showing up, I stopped making money. And what I realized was I didn't know my numbers. My answer was just to make more money. And I have made way too much money to be this broke. So that's the first quote of the day is I want you to ask yourself, have you made way too much money to be this broke? And so what I find with most real estate agents is they get into the business and first thing they're trying to do is secure food, shelter, and water. So once you secure food, shelter, and water, we start looking at phase 2 thinking, and that has to do with financial IQ. So Jake, one of the things that you and I have had many conversations around is financial IQ. And if we don't have a financial IQ, our answer is always more, yet we got into real estate for freedom, flexibility, and wealth, right? We usually choose freedom and flexibility, therefore we never gain wealth, and we always come from scarcity. So, when we're out enjoying the pool with our kids, we're freaking out because we should be working, and when we're working, we should be playing with our kids. Which one is it? So, anyways.
Yeah. So what is because you're going there, and I'm sure you'll get into it a little bit more as far as what is the real issue here for most of us on this call and most of the agents that we're here to serve? Is it income or is it something else?
No, you don't have an income problem. You have a spending problem. And what I mean by that is most of us make way more money than most people around us. So I have a formula and it says, figure out if you have an income problem. And if you're making over $50,000 a year, you don't have an income problem. You probably have a cash flow problem. Meaning you don't know, you have a big closing, then all of a sudden you start living like that's happening each and every month. And so another part of that is start drawing a salary of some sort. Mike Makowitz talks about in Profit First. Garrett Gunderson talks about in cash flow mapping, I believe. Carl Lutz, my financial advisor coach, has a program called Cash Flow Mapping where consistent income makes a difference. And even commissionable people can end up drawing a salary. And so what I encourage people to do is, if you don't have an income problem, figure out your cash flow problem. And Dave Ramsey, who is a level 2 thinking person, is someone who says, have 6 months reserves. Now I say level 2 thinking because I believe that Dave Ramsey's speaking more to the poor middle class than he is someone who is an entrepreneur that has a higher level of thinking. Yeah.
Now, Hank, so there's a reason you came to my mind on this subject. So can you tell them, has this always been how your mind worked? Or you use the phrase about leaning in, especially leaning into the tax portion of things. So give us a little bit of appreciation on your backstory and kind of where you've led to regarding profit.
Yeah. So by the age of 22, I had 42 rental properties and I had a commercial loan call due on me. And so it was at that point I was like, whoa, what's going on here? So I ended up working for a mortgage company for 3 years to try to figure it out. And then, I've been a buyer's agent, I've been a top agent, I've been a market center, team leader, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it was always, hey, think bigger, double your income, all of that stuff. And the reality was I did all that. I doubled my income. But then I get to the end of the year and my account was like, well, you owe 15 grand. It was like, oh, 15 grand. There isn't any more in my bank account. And I started getting frustrated because I'm doing everything that everybody's telling me and I'm not making more money. I'm just more stressed. So I believe I was 38 and I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to lean into it and just lean into it. I want to be better a year from now than what I am today. I want to be better 2 years from now than what I am today. And that was about 5 years ago. And Jake, now I've got more cash sitting in my money market account through the tax filter than I've ever had. And it's not because I'm making more money. It's because I'm holding my money more accountable and I don't feel it. So there's another pro tip. Stop feeling your money. So many people base what they do based on their feelings. Well, fuck your feelings. Like, you're an adult. So are we allowed to swear on here, Jake?
You can do whatever you want to do. Hey,
Okay.
I want you to be you.
Well, what I realized was so many people go off of feelings. And when I stopped feeling my money is when my world started to change. I remember meeting with my accountant and I think it was August or September, and one of my streams of income was at $180,000. I didn't even realize it. He goes, so we haven't been taking percentages off of this income stream. I'm like, yeah, it's not big enough to really make a difference. But because every month when it would come in, I just percentage it off and I had it going in certain accounts, I never felt it. He goes, how much do you think you've made in this revenue stream? I said, I don't know, 75, 80 grand. He goes, you made $180,000. I was like, what? He goes, please tell me you knew you made 180,000. I said, I didn't. And here's why. I don't feel my money. It's set up when it comes in, and a great website to check out is cashflowmapping.com. When money comes into your operating account, what you do is you percentage it off. And then Jake, I'm sure you've talked about this. And so I just percentage my money off based on the revenue streams and I don't feel it. And I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time I made less than 40 grand in a month. And I probably work less than anybody that you know.
True. And I'm proud to say that. No, that's awesome, dude. So, and you just hit on something there. So we've got a group here of broker owners, leaders in their own rights, right? Leading other folks to getting what it is they want. Hit on that a little bit deeper, if you don't mind, as far as the additional revenue streams, because I've heard you say, and you're living it, at any point you can turn up the volume on any one of those other income streams to diversify your income portfolio, so to speak.
Yep. So I looking back and connecting the dots, I put some things together, and this is called a success code. Now, I'm going to simplify it in the terms of, remember when you got your first listing, you had to work on a skill set, and your skill set was, well, what paperwork do I need? You had time on task, which I jumped on earlier thinking our call was at 1 o'clock Eastern. And I heard you talking about time on task and then experimentation until you get a victory and confidence. So the second time, or let's say after 10 listings, you have a different level of skill set, different level of time on task, and a different level of your experimentation. It takes 80% of the energy to make 20% of the efforts in the beginning. Once that flip-flops and you identify the 20% that makes 80% of the money, I stop doing the other 80%. So Jake, you know me, I don't do email. I don't really do incoming leads very well because most of my business is by people I'm already in relationship with, and I don't believe in destructive abundance. So what happens is once you identify the 20% that makes 80% of the money, you introduce another income stream, spend that 80% of the time that you were spending on a new income stream where you're making 80% of the money here for 20% of the effort. You're spending 80% of the effort here to make 20%. Then when that flip-flops, what happens is now you have two streams where you're spending 20% of the time. So it's 20% here, 20% here. So that's 40%, yet you're making 160% of the money. Are you tracking with me? Once you have those two income streams stabilized, oftentimes what people do is they try to grow too fast. Think big. I know. So I know sometimes we agree to disagree, yet I think we believe in the same thing. My thing is you got to have that foundation catch up. So once you get it going, I believe time on task and allowing it to catch up is important. So then you have that third income stream where you're spending 80% of the time. Now, this is where schedule comes in. I spend 3 hours a week on a new income stream until I get that victory, which gives me confidence. And an income stream doesn't count for me until it's making $10,000 a month. So one of my income streams, I spent 18 months, Jake, spending 3 hours a week working on skill set, time on task, experimenting. It wasn't until 18 months in that I made $1. Once I made $1, I went from 0 to 100 very quickly. That next year I made $175,000 off that income stream. Now, Jake, what's your birthday?
April 26th.
April 26th. I can tell you everything that I've done for the last 4 years since 2016 on your birthday. You know why? Because I don't try to outwork stupid. Many of you are like, oh, I'll just work harder. See, you can work harder, but I'll out-earn you, and here's why. Because I work smarter, and that's because I got a tattoo right here because I'm not that smart. Subtraction leads to multiplication. Just like at one point you were working with buyers all the time, then you started working with listings to get more leverage. Well, there's capacity challenges. So sometimes you have to subtract out revenue streams. Like I no longer buy and sell real estate myself. Here's why. There was capacity challenges. So I stopped doing it. And they're like, well, Hank, it's easy money. See, I gave up short-term income to work on long-term income. And if you don't understand your math, for example, your net life income, as long as we make $360,000 a year, my family reaches every financial goal that we want. So if I have a choice between making 360 working 40 hours a week and not working nights and weekends versus 600 making 80 hours a week, I'll choose 360 all day long. But Jake, most people say, well, I'm not a numbers person. I leverage that. You can't fucking leverage what you don't understand, you child.
Yeah. I love it, dude. This is where Hank gets passionate, and I freaking love it.
Well, and it's here's the thing: is we drive around in these nice cars, and I bet I stopped asking people, "Hey, are you behind on your taxes?" 90+% of the people in our industry are behind on their taxes, and you know what? If you're driving around in like a sweet freaking whip and you're behind on your taxes, you're a fucking fraud.
No. Let's get into that in a second, as far as the taxes, deeper on that, and back taxes and all those things. But you just said something that jogged my memory as far as, well, jogged a thought. Guys, I can testify for this guy that I think, Hank, correct me if I'm wrong, it requires a discipline, I guess is ultimately what I'm trying to say here. You have to be disciplined. Case in point, there was a conversation recently that Hank and I had with a fellow coach, the three of us, and it was about long-term wealth building and all the things, and we brought up stocks. Okay, we're just talking about stocks, and neither three of us are professionals in the stock market industry or anything like that. And so long story short, we kind of, had a couple back and forths about that. And recently, I think it was yesterday or today even, Hank, you had texted back basically how I interpreted it. I'm not interested in stocks. I know nothing about it. I'm not going to invest the time in it. So as long as I stay in my lane and continue to do what I'm an expert in, the game is won. I'm basically putting words in your mouth, but what do you say?
And I'm leaning into it to understand it more, because I can't leverage it if I don't understand it. Yet at the end of the day, I'm the largest investment. I mean, when I look at my income, when I look at my net worth, it's all been based off of me as the asset. So right now what I'm doing is I'm getting cash strong, meaning everywhere that I look, I'm looking to bring in cash right now, because I believe that the opportunities in the next 12, 24, 36 months for those that are sitting in a large cash position are going to be huge and exponential. So right now what I'm doing is I'm identifying my next pillar posts, and then I'm putting my blinders on. See, because so many times what we want is we want the easy button. And the reality is it's just simple math. I'm getting a tattoo right here that says math versus drama. And I'm really not that disciplined. You were talking about pain versus pleasure earlier. What I've done is I made the pain of not doing my job greater than the pain of doing it. I know what my time is worth. In fact, I bet many of you, if you looked at your dollars per hours, and here's the biggest difference. So Jake, how much do you make an hour? Or just throw a number out there.
Yeah, 280.
280. So Jake, here's where my income really went up. When I started using my hours outside of trading dollars for hours worth $280 an hour, I started making $280 every hour of every single day. meaning not just when I trade dollars for hours, yet it was 10 years ago that I started investing in myself. I mean, read hundreds of books, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, because the biggest difference where you'll be 10 years from now is how you spend your hours outside of trading dollars for hours. So if you look at that, Jake, $280 an hour, and again, 280 times 24 equals $6,720 a day. That's going to be roughly $2 million, right? Times 365, that's $2,452,800. So Jake, every single hour outside of you trading dollars for hours, ask yourself, does this bring me closer by spending this time here, or further away from $280 an hour? That means sleep. That means exercise. That means sex with your spouse. And if you don't think that sexual energy is an important part of you as a human being, like you're a child, like start having real conversations with yourself without shame and without judgment. I know that when things are humming with my wife, with the family, with the kids and all of that stuff, my business is that much easier, because after we take care of income, we take care of cash flow, we look at relationships, energy, and finances. Back to your sports thing, we referee our life. Jake's a major relationship to me. So when he said, Hank, can you do this? I'm at a yes. After this call, I'll check my energy. If my energy is good, I don't have to worry about finances. Because Jake, I don't make money off of you. However, I know I've made money off of being in relationship with you. It just happens. How? I don't really know. I just know that it does.
Matt Plummer.
Yeah, there we go. Look at Matt Plummer. I mean, I look at Matt. Matt, you teed Matt up, and Matt came into me, and we were able to decrease his gap. And I mean, the dude has more money than he's ever had in his life. He's in the best financial position that he's ever been. And what's cool about it is you and I come from abundance. You helped tee up the foundation, and then I got to like light a match, and he's just taken off.
Yeah. Yeah. I just had an aha around that, Hank, is my own math. I mean, you took it to a different level right there. And anybody listening to this, you know, you took me from $280 an hour times the 40-hour a week mentality times 52 weeks. That's 582 grand. Not looking at every hour, whether I'm sleeping or awake, working or not, to take it to 2.5 million. So that,
Jake, this is what I find is truly, if you look at it, because if you rewind, Jake, on what you were making per hour, how you were spending your hours outside, now you're making over $500,000 a year. And I don't want to, I'm not sure what I can say or not. No. You are making over $500,000 a year. So when you look at it, when we fast forward 5 years from now, because I know how you spend your time, I mean, let's face it, even when we're with our kids, guys, I'm not naturally a good dad. I have to show up. That's why I work it. I don't work after 5 o'clock. Don't call me. Like, I set up those things. My point is, I'm always thinking about how could I do this better? How could I help this person? How could I help this? I don't turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back to the tax thing, man, because that's such a relevant thing. And perhaps more than likely, I know you have a belief system around this. A lot of people on here, whether they want to admit it or not, owe the IRS some back taxes. So what gets us into that mess? And more importantly, how do we get out of that mess? What would be your advice to that? As, again, these are leaders of brokerages, leaders of teams doing big business. What do you say to that, instead of the answer always being, well, I'll just go earn more to pay that back taxes off?
And first, you know, obviously I turn up the volume a little bit, and some people think I'm just a dick. I'm looking for you to take your head out of your ass and fix it. And so here's what I want you to do. It's okay. Like, I've gone bankrupt. I've been in marriage counseling. Like, get over yourself and fix it. So here's what you do. Tony DeSello once said this, and it stuck with me. If you owe the IRS money, you start sending them 50 cents of every dollar that comes in. Yes, because here's why. And this is why people don't end up ever fixing the problem, and they just keep kicking the can down the road. When a dollar comes in, you're already behind on taxes. So figure that's 25%. Well, when a dollar comes in, you got to pay those taxes. So 50%, well, Hank, I can't live on that. Well, then get off your high horse and get your lifestyle in alignment with what you really make, because most people make less than they think and they spend more than they'd like to admit. So we need to get on a budget. Oh, the B word. Yes. You know what? The B word. So you track your fixed expenses, then you have variable expenses. So Jake, there's nothing I can't buy. like with the amount of money that I make, I can pretty much buy whatever I want. However, here's the challenge. I can't buy everything that I want. So we have a budget of $6,000 a month in variable expenses, which means that's outside of our fixed expenses. So at any given moment, because I'm on cash flow mapping, I know exactly where we are in the month. So if we have $6,000 a month and I go in my Capital One and I say, okay, where are we at? If my wife wants to, my wife's actually not the spender, I am. If we're talking about doing something, we say, okay, where's our variable account at? And I can go on here and I see exactly it's going, because most of us don't have a good enough pulse on our finances. We're at $3,225 and we're on the 9th of the month. Oh shit, we're 33% of the way through the month. We're over halfway there. So Jake, you know what I did? I sold a tent I wasn't using for $1,200. Now we can have $1,200 more of fun. Now, Jake, I have well over 6 figures in cash sitting in my money market account, yet I still hold myself to make sure that I'm +1. And write this down, +1. Jake, if you never went backwards in a month and you always had a net worth of $1 more than you had the previous month, would you and I both have a lot more freaking money than what we have?
Yeah, I would say.
So did that answer your question, or am I completely?
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And so you had referenced that before, because I think it's applicable here with, and if we're not talking to you, sorry, but I imagine that we are in some way, shape, or form, about back taxes and getting caught up and debt and all those things. You had said the Profit First book, and I'm a Profit First implementer as well. And so there's the allocations of money and letting your money work for you versus the other way around. So has that been something that you've been able to implement there, as far as how do you get $6,000? Did you pick the number, or did you start with a percentage of income working toward up to that? Does that make sense?
And Carl helped me with this. Carl Lutz, one of my financial coaches, he truly just, we sat down and we looked at our goals and everything that we were looking at. And he said, hey, rather than look back in the rearview mirror and beat yourself up, just pick a number. And Sarah and I's goal was to be at 6,000. When I went back and I tracked some of it, we spend a lot of money. We got 3 kids under the age of 10. We live an awesome freaking life. And we were hitting between 10 and 12 grand a month in variable spending. And so Sarah and I just said, we'd like to keep it at 6,000. And so we just picked it out of the air and we've hit it. I mean, Jake, I track everything that's important to me. So I think the biggest thing that you can do is start tracking and start having numbers help you make decisions versus your feelings.
Right. That's what I was hoping you'd get to right there, is numbers over feelings, because you had said it earlier, obviously, but I'm glad you circled back around to that. So and it's been a while since I know you've been in an office. However, you coach very high-level elite players, because I know you don't allow people into your proximity who aren't playing at that level. So for the broker owners who are on here, what would be any advice? I'm kind of putting you on the spot, as far as what the day-to-day operations and overhead of a typical business would look like. What are they possibly wasting money on that could get out from their budget if they're a little bit more resourceful? Any thoughts and ideas? Tips?
Well, taxes. I mean, one's taxes. If you don't have a high financial IQ, you're probably not making smart decisions. For example, I'm looking forward to getting audited by the IRS, which probably sounds crazy because I've lived in fear for most of my adult life around it. But once you go through something, you no longer fear it. Well, there's 70,000 plus pages for the IRS code, so there's interpretation. And I believe you don't leave breadcrumbs that are negative. I do believe that you should push those gray areas if you feel that you can defend them. Yet if you got your head buried in the sand, and Garrett Gunderson, I think he's a level 3 thinker, says most brokerages or business owners are wasting the most amount of money on taxes and cash flow.
So are you saying get creative with a good tax professional on what write-offs and things are to put you in a better tax position?
Well, and I'm not even saying get creative. I'm saying get smart, because, for example, I own a retreat home. Well, on paper, it looks like I have a loss. Yet the reality is I'm either going to pay taxes or I'm going to have this loss at this asset. So when you understand taxes, you understand more of the tax code. What you can do is you can future plan. So you can say, well, if I make this move, it'll affect this move and this move. Yet if you're reacting and you're basing things off of a year-old information, it makes it tough to play chess. You're playing checkers. And so if you're playing checkers, all you're doing is you're trying to survive right now. People who play chess are actually future pacing with decisions that they're making.
It goes back to what you said, increasing or leaning in your terminology to the financial IQ. What if all of us on here spend as much time and pride and energy into learning how money works versus just how the human brain and productivity hacks and all those things work? Like there's no difference rather on how we go about learning about money itself, because we're really good at making it, most of us on here, and yet we kind of suck at managing and keeping it oftentimes.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. Like, I've spent way more time trying to out earn stupid than where I am today. And I mean, this has been a 10-year-long journey, and I'm at a spot now where I don't have to show up anymore. I have enough different income streams coming in. We almost extended our vacation. We went out west not too long ago, and I was going to take the whole month of July off. And I could do that because I finally grew up and started knowing my numbers.
And it allows you to get an amazing 30 plus however long foot RV that you can now travel around. That's pretty awesome.
Well, let's look at that, Jake, because I understand money and I have confidence and I'm a level 3 thinker. So Dave Ramsey would say, you got to pay cash, blah, blah, blah. Here's what I did. I've got A+ credit. I financed a $28,000 camper for 15 years. Now, right away, people are going to start getting in judgment. My question is, if you got into judgment right there, you come from a fixed mindset. Or you could say, wow, I've kind of liked what this guy has said so far. Let's look at his thinking. So we have enough cash in our money market account. We took $30,000 and we allocated that, saying that's what we could have bought the camper with. I take 1/3 of that, which is $10,000. I now earmark that, where if shit hits the fan, we pay $10,000 down on the trailer, we unload it. But that $10,000, the $300 that I'm paying in interest, it's going to be a write-off anyways. So it's more on there. It's more on paper shifting. That $30,000 for me as the asset makes me sleep so much better sitting in my bank account than the $300 liability that it is on a monthly payment. I can tell you, when I have a shit ton of money in the bank, I have much more swagger than I'm worried about cash flow for the next 30 days.
Yeah, good point. But it was all responsibly done, obviously, too, is what we're hearing here. I know your feelings around this, so I'm just going to kind of tee you up with my question. Have we been sold a lie when it comes to leverage? I mean, this all plays in the money conversation, because some people on here are like, I want to grow my real estate business to 300 agents, and that's great if you know the why and all that behind it. But what are your sentiments towards that?
Well, and it comes down to math. I think most of us, and again, I was part of selling that dream because I believed it until I did 50 million one year with my team and I didn't make any money. Like, how the hell do you do 50 million in real estate and not make any money? Well, the reality is you look at who's pitching that to you about thinking big. Who wins by you thinking big? Who benefits from you thinking big? Now let's do math right here. Most agents can do 3 transactions a month with no assistant, no help whatsoever. 3 transactions a month. If you increase your average sale price every single year by 10%, now, and you don't increase your expenses, so you're making enough money in year 1 to cover your expenses. You increase your average sale price by 10%. Now you're doing it by past clients and referrals until you get to that sweet spot. So in Kalamazoo, that the median price is, I don't know, 200, but you could easily sell 350,000 for your average sale price. Well, what happens is as your average sale price increases and you don't increase your expenses, within 5 years, the majority of people could be completely debt-free if they take that extra money and pay it to themselves, including their mortgage. If you're really upside down, it'll take you 10 years. But what people want is they want to cheat the process and leverage. So they bring on a buyer's agent or they bring on a team. The challenge is destructive abundance, because Jake and I are both great coaches. We're not the same coaches. So somebody who came to me for my level of service might get Jake, and it doesn't make Jake bad. However, it's different. And trying to keep things equitable makes it tough. So again, that's the problem with the real estate industry, Jake, is trying to keep things equitable for everybody is very tough.
There it is for you, my friend.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right? That's what you're talking about.
Yep.
Just 10% year over year increase on price, and what that means in volume and closed GCI for an independent agent And this can same thing apply. Just replace the numbers of 36 with whatever your brokerage runs at, per year on agents, and it can work the same way if you're a broker owner on here.
And Jake, in 20 years, $1 million price tag is probably going to be, every day.
Yeah, you're talking about average sales price down here.
Yeah, I usually have it top out where people's, like in Kalamazoo, you get up over $500,000. There's only so many properties for sale. Yet the reality is once you've been in the business for 5 years, you can probably work 20 hours a week and do 36 units because, and then we look at the math too. You get to a point where you only work with buyers if they're sellers. So you have 24 listings, 12 of which are buyers. That's 36 units with 24 people. And let's face it, it's easier to work with 24 people than 36 people. Yet here's what people do. They take what's given to them, the myth of low-hanging fruit.
Right.
And that's where I tell people, have standards. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, good advice, man. This is great. Guys, if you have questions or anything, please post them in the window. I haven't done a great job keeping up with that. But man, what else? What am I not asking you? What would anybody on here, our audience question that we haven't hit on yet?
If you don't know your numbers, why not? What's causing you not to have a P&L? Taxes are inevitable, so why wouldn't you have that real time? Jake, I can tell you what I did every day of the year since 2016. I can tell you what was in my bank accounts, what my net worth was every single month since then. I mean, if it's important, you track it. I can tell you how many times I had sex with my wife last year, just seeing if anybody's actually paying attention.
That's okay.
Here's the thing is some people take themselves way too seriously and they can't have real conversations. I'm sorry. Like I had a client that hadn't had sex with her wife in over 2 years. How do you think their business is going? It's not. Jake, I've been coaching with him. He had sex 4 times a week with his wife over the last month. Now, what do you think is going on with his business now?
That's the wheel of life exercise right there.
Well, it is, but here's the thing is most people don't want to talk about it. Like, Hank, you can't talk about sex. Well, you know what? If we're adults and that's not going right, tell me how much energy do you have outside of it? Or finances. See, if I don't know my numbers, how much am I going to talk to them about with other people? Jake, we talk about numbers. I mean, I'll show you my P&L. You show me yours. Like there's no weirdness. And that's multiplication because when you're comfortable and you have confidence around something, we go back to the success code. When you have victories and you have confidence, what happens is you'll talk about it.
Right.
If you're in my circle, I have seen financial P&Ls or I've seen proof of where you're at. And I don't even care if you're behind on taxes. I don't even care if you get a divorce. Like what I care about is who you're being, what you're doing, and what you're looking to have. I don't expect everybody to be where they want to be. I just expect that you're being an adult. You're addressing the problem because awareness is transformational in and of itself. So once you get awareness around something, now you can say, okay, let's go fix it. And that's my next tattoo is it's going to be fix it. Just lean into it. And yes, I get tattoos of all my business principles, patience with a sense of urgency. You got to pull the arrow back. But if you don't know your numbers, and Jake, you know the quickest way for people to get out of tax debt? Don't make very much money for 2 years.
Yeah. Force yourself to be resourceful. Yeah.
So Jake, just a comment on the chat. Nikita Carter says, this is a real conversation we all need. Thank you, Jake, and thank you, Hank. Absolutely appreciate the authenticity.
And Stephen Edwards has conversion rates on the whole sexual thing. So we'll get you guys he needs to improve his conversion rates there.
And Cialis is the best thing for us over 40.
Let's see, Bob Templeton, where can we get Hank's info on adding multiple revenue streams?
So Jake, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm putting everything that I do on YouTube now. Information's a commodity. So what people pay me for is proximity and implementation. So if you could check out my YouTube page, I'm putting out a new video at least once a week. We missed last week because I was out playing. It was my birthday. And just watch it on YouTube or watch it on Facebook. As of today, Jake, I'm no longer taking on one-on-one coaching clients.
Okay.
In fact, that's the next revenue stream that I'm subtracting.
Okay.
I went up and told my wife yesterday that I'm subtracting it. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, honey, don't worry. we're replacing it.
Yeah.
So Stephen, that'd be the best place.
Yeah. Or Bob. I think it's Bob. Whoever. Yeah. Bob.
Or Bob.
Okay. So find Hank on YouTube. Do you have like a handle? Is it at something? I don't know how YouTube is.
It's just Hank Avink on YouTube. It'll be easy to find.
Look it up. Okay. Let's close out with one last thing. Just you hit on it. I know you're a big proponent. If somebody's like, wait a minute, he said it a few times now. What is this whole subtraction leads to multiplication thing? Can you just kind of just spend another minute or whatever elaborating on that?
Well, let's just use real estate because we know. So when I first started in real estate, I was buying investment properties, but as an agent, I was working with buyers, and I was a top buyer's agent in 2008 in Michigan. I could work with about 10 active buyers at any given time. Well, there's a capacity challenge. So I ended up going to listings. Well, what happened was when I added listings and I didn't subtract out buyers, it was actually subtraction because I did a shittier job for everybody. I was reacting versus responding. So at some point we had to subtract out working with buyers so we could work with more sellers. And I had 28 listings by myself and no assistant when my son had open heart surgery. Well, if I didn't subtract out buyers, there's no way I could ever had 28 listings by myself. You know, when I went on the coaching journey, and I believe this is what happens, when I subtracted out real estate altogether, so let's say real estate was 100,000 or represents 10. When I added coaching, it was 10. So it was 10 plus 10, which is 20 on the income levels. When I subtracted real estate, it allowed me to go 10 times 10, which was 100. And not only that, there's a difference between gross and net, because as a coach, I still have a big real estate team. I just get paid via coaching, not via their production. It's a much easier way to keep it equitable. And again, I don't have anything against brokerages. I don't have anything against other different ways of doing it. Yet, let me ask you this. How incentivized are you to have people outgrow you? Think about that right there. That was one of the challenges that I had. Was my goal was to always help people grow. So many people would outgrow the opportunity that I had. And it was like, man, I love doing this, yet it's not sustainable. So I started shifting my models where I could be benefited by helping them outgrow me.
Makes sense. So it's just another way of saying simplicity. You know, cut the ties on something else so you can double down and simplify versus complicate.
Simple, and Jake, you and I have had many discussions about how simple is it. The other thing is, how many human beings do you depend on them doing their job in order for you to get paid?
Right.
This right here is what most real estate agents need. They need patience. You're really good at urgency. You suck at consistency. Right. So we have the 6 C's. The first thing is you got to be committed. You connect with 50 people a day. You contact 20, which is a handshake. It's basically an energy exchange. Do I like you? Do I fear you? Are you a mofo? Have 5 conversations if you're on goal. This is where you're finding out about them as a human being, meaning, Jake, there's a lot I know about you as a human being. And then I want to have 1 conversation a day where I remember where I was when I talked to them. You do that 365 times a year, the math works. That's 18,000 connections. If you make 18,000 connections and you can't reach your goals, you've got your numbers screwed up. Now, Jake, do you think everybody likes me? Fuck no, they don't. Yet everybody will remember me, but they'll be like, there was that guy dropping F-bombs with the hat backwards. I've dropped a few F-bombs on purpose because I don't want you to be neutral with me.
Yeah.
Because if you're neutral, you won't remember me. If I irritated you a little bit by saying you're a child if you don't know your numbers, good. You should be irritated with yourself, not with me. If we stop worrying about what other people think of us and we just are true to ourselves, we'll stop being neutral. And some people love me, some people hate me, you will remember me. You make 18,000 connections. I didn't like Jake the first time I met him.
Nope.
Now look at, we're bros because he didn't do what I wanted him to do. But Jake, is that true?
Was what true? You not liking me?
Well, the fact that I called you, I had an agenda on what I wanted you to do. You had another agenda on what you were doing, which didn't make you right or me wrong. Yeah. The reality was I didn't care for you the first time because we didn't connect.
literally we didn't connect. You tried, I didn't respond. I was a brand new office CEO team leader thing, and I got this guy calling me trying to say I want to come to your office or something to do this training. And like, who the heck? I'm just trying to get my feet underneath me. I was brand new into the role. So
But I remembered you because I at least respected the fact that you protected your time and everything else.
Yeah.
And I remember Wayne, one of our buddies, Wayne Salmons, said something about Jake, and I was like, he's a dick.
yeah, I remember hearing about that after the fact. Yes, thank you.
And here we are.
Man, here we are. Here we are. Dude, thank you so much. Is there, I don't want to, end this too early. Is there anything else that you would love to share with our audience today, the live viewers, and there's going to be a lot of people, a lot of requests that want to come back and watch this replay. Anything that I haven't given you the platform to share?
Yeah, I just say this, does your math work? And the majority of people that I talk to, their math doesn't work, or when I ask them questions around their math, it doesn't add up. And the biggest thing, what I love about Jake is he's one of the only people that I know that actually looks at numbers as much as I do. And so, for example, many people will go and they'll work out for 30 days and then 6 months later wonder why they're not in shape. Well, you weren't consistent. The math doesn't work. See, we've got to be consistent, and that's why 50-25-1 came in, is if you're consistent with your math, you have enough runway. Most of us can figure out what to do in order to get in shape, whether it's for your health, whether it's for your relationship, whether it's for your business. Figure out, does the math work? So for example, Jake, one of the biggest challenges that I have with quarantine is my wife and I don't get enough alone time. And I'm not just talking about sex. So we recognize that. So at 7 o'clock in the morning now, we go for a walk. Just a simple walk around our property. It takes us about a half an hour because that math works. When I start my morning out, walking with my wife, getting my 10,000 steps in for the day, I know that math works.
Yeah, well said, my friend. Guys, like I said earlier, I mean, Hank is a friend. We have no business ties to each other whatsoever, but he had to come on here. So he said this before on his things that my name has been brought up, so I'll say it too. From the outside looking in, people with small-mindedness might say that we're competition with each other. And yet here I have him coming in as the Trojan horse to close out our entire Broker Owner Summit today, because I just have that much level of respect for him and what he's doing. So follow him, the National Coaching League. YouTube is going to be something he's going to pour a ton of content in that you guys can get in habit. So subscribe, follow, whatever the right terminology it is there. And I have no other reason to say that other than I know you'll get value from him, like him or hate him. He's going to always keep it real, and I think you've learned that pretty quickly today.
Well, with no judgment. Jake, would you do me a favor? Would you share that video I did yesterday on Net Life Income with them?
Yeah, level 1, level 2, level 3.
Yeah, I think I'd like all of you to figure out your net life income.
Sure.
And start choosing life. Start making sure your audio matches video, your priorities are in alignment, and you start looking at the math around it. Life's too short. And so anyways, Jake, I admire you, man. Like what you've done in such a short amount of time. There's not too many people that sometimes I'm like, man, I'm not doing shit. And like everything that you've done with the locker room, I'm so freaking proud of you, buddy.
Thank you.
And I still remember when you realized, so my office is called the locker room.
Yeah.
And it was so funny when Jake reaches, like, do you remember that phone call?
Yeah, I do. Son of a you threatened to like sue me and take me to court and all this. Obviously kidding. I had just come out with the name of our company, the Locker Room, when that's what he labeled his office of the National Coaching League. We both come from sports backgrounds, and yeah, my heart was pounding so fast. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to.
Well, and I sent a text, and it was all joking. Like,
yeah.
I don't do attorneys. I mean, I have when I've had people come at me,
yeah.
But like I was like, no, dude, it's awesome. Run with it.
Yeah, we're still running together, man. So.
All right, I'm gonna go swimming. Jake, thanks for the time. Is it Kit? Kit, I'll put you on my radar now that I know you're in Jake's world. And if he's ever not doing what he needs to, will you give me a jingle?
Absolutely. We can be raw and authentic together.
Perfect.
Hank, my friend, thank you, sir. And everybody, that is it. That's a wrap. Thank you guys so much for allowing us the opportunity. Go to tlrnation.com. Go to the free stuff page and get you some freebies, if nothing else. And we will definitely send out the replay to all of you. And thanks for your time.
And again, I'm just going to say, if you guys need anything in any way from anything that we discussed today,
please send us an email, text, messenger, what have you.
Cool. All
Love
right,
to-
guys. Thank you so much, y'all. Have a good day.